Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault. And you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughened him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
This is the next search on February 28, 2020, 7:44 p.m. How, does the FBI find people? And people's misspelled P-E-O-O-P-L-E. Did the defendant find out how the FBI finds people in this case? Or she found out?
I object. What more do you need to see? Because he's the guy.
Welcome back to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict. We are back. We are back. Sorry, it was a long lunch. I got a little sidetracked. We had some postal issues we're trying to sort out. YouTube sent me a bar of soap. I think. Wait, it might be acrylic. I think it smells like a bar of soap. It's a hard piece of plastic with a little YouTube sticker on it, saying "Thank you for taking our survey." So that's going to go like right there. I don't know. We'll find a spot for that. Thank you, YouTube. Welcome back to the Court of Public Opinion. I'm the Recovery Addict. Thanks for taking the seat. First, we have to say welcome to Tisha S. Sorry. First in chat this afternoon. That means the internet is all yours. We're going to sentence you to internet ownership. You're responsible for repairing, maintaining everything IP related worldwide. That's going to be how we roll there. And we're going to jump over to a new trial that's just kicking off today. This is a Dontel trial. I have to say this. We have a member who is very closely connected to this trial. And let me just say, share as much or as little as you want. Be careful. I don't want you called as a witness. So just we're going to watch this one and go through, and we'll give you what we can as it happens. But all right, let's see. If I can get it to work properly. Which it's not doing very well. I always like courtrooms that have pictures of other judges on the wall, so you can be haunted by justices past. This trial, let me give you a little synopsis.
Okay, thank you.
Terrible audio. Let me work on this.
Thank you. I will go ahead and tell parties.
Hang on.
If you happen to see me pick up a phone, texting or anything like that, our computer system sends us out. It has a second authentication thing, so it sends it to the phone. So that's what that
For
is.
convenience, they placed the microphone outside.
Anything else from the state?
Let's see if we can get this working.
All right, let's go ahead and bring the jury.
This is a jury trial. This is the Dontel trial. Let me just read you a little bit that one of our mods provided for us in chat. Former South Carolina coroner Christopher Dontel is accused of murdering the father of his lover's children. Gregory Rice shared 4 children with Megan Jackson, also charged in his murder. Dontel and Jackson were having an affair at the time of Rice's murder. The two met through work, as Jackson had been employed with a company that delivered bodies to funeral homes. There he is right there in the light green. I'll make sure I don't wear the same color shirt as him on the same day. Rice was reported missing on October 2020, and his body was found a month later along the Little Petey River. Dontel is charged with murder, criminal conspiracy, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and accessory after the fact. The victim was found in September of, let's see. So it wasn't this year. It was last year, I think. I'm not sure. This is a crazy one. This is a little crazy. We've got a coroner accused of murder. Usually, the people are already dead before they get to them. I'm sorry. The jokes write themselves. I'm hoping we get good, clear audio. If not, I will do everything I can to improve it for you. That's not his job. Yeah, there's enough business. You don't have to drum up new business like this. I mean, people come to you, quite literally, if you're the coroner. Oh, my goodness. The coroner should have been able to unalive somebody without it showing up on autopsy. This guy was shot multiple times. Multiple times. Debbie, rewind just a little bit on high speed. It'll be good. Never had a repeat customer. Probably low approval ratings as well. Nobody leaves reviews. Best service ever. Quite thorough. Great bedside manner. Nothing. They don't. Coroners get very few reviews. People are dying to get an appointment. The mother of the kids with the victim is also charged awaiting trial. Yes, both. You can call it partners in crime, I think. Gives great incisions.
Jury, I hope that y'all had a good night last night, and y'all had a good morning, and I appreciate y'all being prompt today, being on time. We're about to start the case of the State versus Christopher Allen Dontel. I do want to talk with you a little bit before the trial about expectations, things like that. But I want to tell you that this trial is probably going to be a little different than what you might expect. Many people don't have the chance to attend actual court sessions as you're doing now. And you may think from watching television or movies or reading books that trials are always full of high drama, intense action, and riveting circumstances. And while all of these things may be true at times, this trial is not for entertainment. It is a fundamental part of our democracy. It's a search for the truth in an effort to make sure that justice is done between the parties for the court. Now, searching for the truth, making sure that justice is done, is often slow, deliberate, and sometimes very repetitive. The opposite of what you may have seen in television or in movies or read in books. This courtroom is a place of honor, and it's dedicated to the protection and preservation of citizens' rights through what many have called the greatest justice system that has ever been created. The attorneys appearing before you are advocates for the parties that they represent. But first and foremost, they are officers of the court, sworn to uphold the integrity and fairness of our judicial system and to help you in the search for the truth. You should expect them to be professional, competent, and ethical in the representation of their client's interests. You are also expected to be professional, reasonable, and ethical. I thank you for accepting this important responsibility in jury service and for your contribution today to our justice system. I'm going to ask that our clerk swear you now as a jury.
It might just be the judge's mic. I'm hoping it's just off.
Please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm you will well and truly try the issues joined in this case and a true verdict rendered according to the law and evidence, so help you God? Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. What I'll now say is intended to serve as an introduction to the trial of this case. These remarks are not a charge of the law in this case.
I'm not sure if we can hear this.
I'll instruct you on the law applicable to the case at the end of the trial before you retire to consider the verdict. This is merely an explanation of the procedure that we will follow in this trial so that you can better understand what may be happening. In this case, I am going to allow you to take notes. I'll have our bailiff provide you with notepads after our opening statements. But I will allow you to take notes as long as your note-taking does not in any way interfere with other jurors. Now, the defendant in this case is charged by an indictment filed in this court with the crime of murder, criminal conspiracy, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and accessory after the fact, the elements of which will be explained to you later. The indictment is simply the charging document by which this case is brought to court, and it is not, in any sense, evidence of any of the allegations it contains. The defendant has specifically pled not guilty to all of the charges in this indictment. The state, therefore, has the burden of proving each of the elements of the indictment beyond a reasonable doubt. And it will be your duty, ladies and gentlemen, to decide whether the state has met that burden. Your purpose as jurors is to find and determine the facts. You are the sole judge of the facts. If at any time I make any comment regarding the facts, I'm going to ask you right now to disregard that. You will determine the facts from the testimony you hear and other evidence that's introduced in the court. It is up to you, to determine the inferences which you feel may properly be drawn from the evidence that is presented. It is especially important that you perform your duty of determining the facts diligently, because ordinarily there is no way to correct an erroneous determination of the facts by a jury. On the other hand, the same law that makes you the judges of the facts makes me the judge of the law. The law as given by the court is the only law you may consider. You must accept and follow the law, even if you may disagree with it. I cannot tell you what the facts are, and you cannot disagree with me about what the law is or should be. Your job is to take the law as I give it to you and apply it to the facts as you find them from the testimony from the witnesses and any other evidence that's been introduced. And after doing that, you will render your verdict. A verdict under the solemn oath that you just took as jurors. Now, I'll also tell you that you must base this case and your findings solely on the evidence presented in this court. That means that during this trial, you must not conduct any independent research about this case. The facts of the case, the evidence presented in this case, or the people or organizations involved in this case in any way.
I don't know if I can hear this.
Information from any source outside of the courtroom. In other words, you must not look at dictionaries or other reference material, search the internet, websites, blogs, Facebook, social media, anything like that. You may not use computers, telephones, cell phones, smartphones, tablets, the internet, or any other tools of technology with communication capabilities at any time while you are in the courtroom or during your deliberations. During your breaks for meals or overnight, if necessary, you can use those devices. But again, they are not to be used to in any way do any kind of research in regards to this case. Now, in a few minutes, you're going to hear an opening statement by the state. The state's opening statement is simply an introduction into what they believe they will be able to show you during the trial. What the state and what the solicitor tells you during their introduction or their opening statement is not evidence. It is simply what they believe that they will show you during the trial. After the state, or after the solicitor gives their opening statement, the defense will then have a chance to make their own opening statement. And again, I tell you that the opening statement made by the defense or the solicitor is not evidence. It is simply what they believe they will be able to show you or not show you in trial. With all that being said, I appreciate you being here. I thank you for your willingness to serve. This will be a somewhat long trial, and I understand that sometimes your minds can wander, but I'm going to ask you to try your best to stay in the task. Mr. Foreman, as the foreman, it is your duty to advise me of any issues you may have in the jury room. If there's any questions, if there's any...
Oh, he's already assigned a foreman.
I ask that you immediately tell them that. We're going to go ahead and begin this trial. And again, I thank you for your service. Sure. Yes.
Wow. And they turned off the jet engine. I don't know if I can fix this. I'm doing everything I can on audio. It is, I think they've put the microphone in a building across the street in the air handler unit. The audio is terrible. Taking the top end, bottom end, I'm using all my filters, just trying to clean it up a little bit, which will degrade the tone of the voice, but I'm just trying to be able to distinguish what they're saying. So give me just a second here. Let me switch screens for just 1 second. Okay.
recess. After the recess, we'll hear opening statements, okay? Again, I'll ask you to retire to the jury room. As I've told you before, do not discuss anything that you've heard so far. We'll be back with you shortly. Thank you.
We start off court with a recess. I realize I'm not causing this, but I'm trying to fix the audio as best I can. When it's white noise like that, it's the hardest because I can only filter out predominant background noise. Lower volume made it a little bearable. I've played with that a little bit as well. Sojourner, would you explain? Take your seat. I'm a new member. If you type !seat, one of the perks we give new members, other than avoiding the slow mode slowdown, is that they are assigned a virtual seat in court where you get to sit at the front of the court, virtually speaking, and we have reserved seating for you. That's it. It's just a fun thing we do to say you're on the front row, just to recognize you as a supporter. There's nothing tangible, and quite arguably you could say the view is identical to before you were a member, but now you just know that you are actually on the front row. This is the only lights courtroom. No fans, only no fans. He's a former South Carolina coroner accused of unaliving the father of his mistress's children. In October 2020, he's also charged with criminal conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and accessory after the fact. This is a wild one. And I'm gonna do what we can to see if we can clean it up, but it's rough. We're hoping they get the mic fixed. Dontel and Jackson were having an affair at the time of Rice's murder. Greeners gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much, Greeners. Very generous of you. If this ever gets off the ground, this is going to be an incredible trial. Both were granted bond initially, and then bond was revoked due to bond violations. Ooh. KX Star, let's get you in touch with Amber if we can. I'm not sure if you're over on Discord or not. I'll let you guide on what you share. I'm not going to put anything out there that you've shared with me unless you want it out there. So, okay, we might be wrapping up here. Let's see if we get arguing some motions, maybe. They're not supposed to contact each other, and they violated that. Which trial are we waiting on? Well, if the audio ever comes through, if it's terrible audio, nobody wants to watch terrible audio. That's the problem. If it's absolutely terrible and there's nothing I can do to make it bearable, and by bearable I mean I don't want a migraine at the end of the day having listened to it. We might jump to another trial. Maybe the fisherman trial, Josh. Ice fisherman trial. That sounds good. Kimberlina 15 says, all right, just figured this thing out. Month 3. Hey, that's pretty early on. It took me about 6 months before I figured out membership messages. The word is they not only planned it together, but might have acted together. Live, Roro, live. Well, for the most part. It's live. Or is it Memorex? One of the two. Nobody wants to listen to terrible audio either. Are those carpet tiles on the ceiling? No, those are just probably asbestos, I'm guessing. It's a government building. They usually do something like that. Tried separately is my understanding on this one. Yeah, they met up. That's why their bond was revoked. KXR, you've messaged me a lot. I'm just saying I'm not going to share anything you've told me unless you specifically give me permission. So I understand you've got some insights that might not be public. Could they review past cases considering he's got history? Previous bad acts usually don't come in unless they're relevant, unless you get to sentencing, and then they might consider, that sort of pattern. There might be specific charges if there were related bad acts this is a repeat offense for, which I don't think there is. Is this the new trial? Yes. Yes, it is. Ceiling tile, not obvious acoustical. What state is this in? It's in South Carolina, just south of me. Virginia, it's in the title of the video. SC versus Dontel. South Kakalaki. Does South Carolinians say Kakalaki, or is that like I don't know, is that something other people say about South Carolinians? Court TV is reporting he asked to plead guilty. That would be 2 trials in 2 days that disappeared the day of. Loving the morgue. Yeah, there's all sorts of jokes we're not going to go with as well on that. So, Santa's giving us court call. Who was naughty? Adam, was it you? Was it you? We're trying to check social media and see if we can get the latest. See if Dontel is, if it's going to go, if the judge is going to allow that change of plea right now, which he probably will. I wonder if his side chick, Megan, would plead guilty as well if he pleads guilty. We're waiting here. There is a high possibility that we are watching the last few moments of this trial. if they're trying to change a plea to a guilty plea. Yes, there are triangles involved in this case. Christopher Dontel, charged with murdering Gregory Rice, who was the father of his lover's children. And his lover, who is Megan Jackson, is going to go on trial later. We already had big delays on this one today, and now we're 3 minutes in with the jury being asked to leave and possible. We need a flow chart. Somebody can map this out. We might have to do a thumbnail on this one. The accused couldn't handle the bad audio. He said, if my trial's going to have that bad of audio, I'll just plead guilty. I think that's what he said. That's what I heard anyway. Might not have been him. Hey, Josh, next trial, please. The next trial we've already got sort of lined up, which is an ice fishing dispute, which I have a particular love in, having a fondness for ice fishing. Father of his lover's children. It is a strange wording. Where's Brandy? She can make us a Churchwell chart. This is sentencing week, not trial week. That's what we're getting told by these trials that are ending. You've got the ice fishing one, right? That's just kicking off. Next trial we can title My First Date with Mrs. R.A. Trial. Yes, this is pretty much how it began. Only fewer boats. I've only ice fished from one boat, and it's not an experience I liked. Ice fishing disputes usually end with someone's pickup in the lake. Tony Zamora, welcome as an attorney. Thank you very much, Tony. Appreciate your support. Thank you. Continued support. Look at that. The Blue Courthouse. Thank you, my friend. How do you ice fish from a boat? Well, pretty much you start by making a bad decision, which is to test the ice, find out it's not safe to walk on, and then try to figure out a way to get out there anyway. And then you think, well, if the ice breaks, if I'm already in the boat, then at least I won't sink. The problem is if the ice breaks, you can't get off the water because the ice is, the boats don't go on ice. So it's a terrible idea. You need the ice to push yourself around. You can't row yourself out. It's bad news from the get-go. Plus, if you use an inflatable boat, the ice will pretty much rip it up, and then you'll drown in an inflatable boat on a frozen lake, which is probably the worst possible way to have your eulogy describe your final moments. Katsy, welcome to the gallery. Member for 11 months. Thank you. The Titanic did it. Yes, it did. When I was younger, I had an 1.5 inch rule, where if the ice was 1.5 inches thick and clear, I would walk on it as long as the temperature was below freezing. Since then, after learning a little bit about math, and also picking up a little bit of what in the world is that? I have no idea what truck this is, but I'm not excited about it. Outside my house. After learning a little bit of math, I've got like semis pulling into my grass. Are they demolishing my house without my knowledge? Oh no, maybe they're just taking out the pole again. All's good. We moved it. Anyway, after learning more about math, I changed my calculation to 3 inches, and then 3 inches of clear ice was safe. And now that I'm a full-grown adult, and by full-grown I mean full, I changed it to 4. So 4 inches is my minimum to go out on there. I have fished before on very, very little ice and done very well. Early ice fishing is some of the best ice fishing. But I remember one time after fishing and catching my limit, thinking, now that I've fished, and because all I did was knock a hole in the ice where there had been a hole before. And I'm like, now that I've fished and I want to see how thick the ice is, I rolled up my sleeve and I stuck my arm way down in the water and I put my hand over and then I like lifted up until I could feel the bottom of the ice, and I just kept going up and up and up, and it was about like that. I just inched my way back. It was good. Trash truck ran over my trash can. Semis have to swerve to hit the pole now. They do. I want to see what happens here. We have a connection, obviously, with somebody in chat that's very close to this trial and might be able to give us quite a bit of perspective. But I want to see what happens here. We love spicy insights. I'm not gonna tell you. I'm just saying the insights are there. This break is like 30 minutes long. They're arguing something before the judge right now. Oh my goodness. I'm terrified of falling in the lake, believe it or not, even though I go out ice fishing. I don't think we have anywhere in North Carolina that gets cold enough for ice to get thick enough for me to go ice fishing on. Sounds good. Sounds good, Kit. Minnesota, yes. I could live up there during the winters. I could live out on the ice. I would be perfectly comfortable just fishing nonstop out on the ice. Bring me food and propane, and I'm good. Is there some sort of type of strategy to wait 4 years to plead guilty? Our shanty was stolen and homeowner's insurance covered it. Can you throw like an air tag in that? Are you prepared for how dark the winter is? I fish at night and I have flashlights. I'm good with that. Ontario. If I could figure out the whole Canada thing, Canada has some beautiful places I wouldn't mind living or visiting for a long period of time. Just gorgeous. I think the Outdoor Boys channel on YouTube figured it out. He went up and just moved to Alaska. I think he's up around Nome, Alaska, and runs his YouTube channel from up there. All outdoor stuff. He takes his young kids out, sleeping without a tent in 30 below, and knows how to do it. Tip ups, jig poles, or both. I use a I guess you call it a jig pole. I don't do tip ups. I've never figured out how to reel those in, and the idea of just doing hand over hand with line, that's a mess. So I don't do tip-ups. I know those are commonly what's used up north in the Great Lakes for muskie. But I prefer like crappie, perch, trout. I've caught one of my largest bass in my life through the ice. That was interesting. We are live right now, Vicki. We anticipate, we're trying to figure out right now what is happening. in this trial. It was supposed to start. The jury had just been brought in, just been said, hey, welcome. Here's court. We're going to have opening statements. Take some notes. And there was a sidebar that is still continuing where I can only guess that at this point there's some plea deal negotiations taking place. Not sure if they'll actually reach a deal. But, oh, Mrs. R.A.'s back home, or some random neighbor. Outdoor Boys used to be Catfish and Carp. He's a lawyer, too. He's done very well for himself on the YouTubes. He does phenomenally well. G4 Outdoors. I love that channel. I love that he takes his kids there. I will say that he rarely shows behind the scenes, and he takes a lot of precautions that he doesn't talk about a lot. So his videos make it look like he's just winging it out there in the great frozen tundra. Hang on. By the way, now's a good time to tell you, I spent my lunch break not eating, but making from scratch a pie for Mrs. R.A. From scratch. A Dutch apple pie.
Do you know what from scratch means?
Yeah, I know what from scratch means. You have to scratch the saran wrap so you can tear it open and take it out. So I scratched it, tore a hole, and I'm cooking it from scratch.
Hey, do you remember that we have a date tonight?
Yes, we have a date tonight. It's a Marie Callender's apple pie. Can you guys eat any fish you catch? I don't know around here. I haven't done fishing in North Carolina, but I've always only fished places where I could eat fish if I wanted to. I've never fished in areas where the water was not clean enough for the fish to be dangerous to eat or something. If you talk about it, you have to share it. The same pie we had for Thanksgiving. I actually bought this one post-Thanksgiving on a sale because we did not have Dutch apple pie on Thanksgiving. We had other pies, key lime, several pumpkin, that one that Mrs. R.A. told you about, that was the chocolatey, velvety, smooth, that one. 2 chocolate cream pies. I think there was a lemon. Yeah, we had a lot of pie. Chocolate silk. Phenomenal. Really good. Although I don't like sweet things very much. Like straight sugar. I don't like. Not a fan of key lime. This one was good. It was quite mild. I don't like too much lime in my key lime. And what did everyone else eat? I didn't track what they ate. Those were just the ones I had. French silk, that's the one. Did Mrs. R.A. get defeated? No, she whooped its butt. It was really good. I love pecans. I don't like pecan pie. Too much caramel. Too much just straight sugar. I had rhubarb pie once over in England, or crumble, rhubarb crumble. I was astounded by how much sugar you have to add to it to cover up the flavor. Not a fan. I'm not a fan. Maybe they made it wrong, but it was basically trying to drown it in sugar so that you could eat it. When the turkey isn't cooked, you just have to make sacrifices by eating only pies. That's what I did. Now, I also had stuffing and potatoes. See, we always have olives, black olives, just like a little tray of black olives. I don't know why that's our Thanksgiving thing. We do that instead of cranberry sauce. Okay. There are theories about pleading guilty, turning state's witness, and getting a lesser sentence. Right now, we don't know what's happening right now in the courtroom. This break, the jury has been sent out. Opening statements have not even begun in the Dontel case, and something's going on here. We've got a co-defendant. Okay, so not simultaneous. The co-defendant will be tried at a separate time, but anything can happen right here in these trials. Downtime equals food. Oh, another Amber Alert. LaGrange, possibly in Wayne or Lenore County. Check local media for more information. Why can't you just tell me? It's our second Amber Alert of the week. Thought we had one yesterday. Amber gets her own sound. She does. It's laughing. Lisa, this is a coroner, or a former coroner, accused of murder. There's a love triangle involved. The father of the lovers... Okay, the love interest had 4 children with another man, and that man is the victim. There's Amber's sound right there. He was shot and found the month after in the PD River. Is the trial live? Yes, they're currently in a sidebar. We're waiting to see if the trial's going to go forward. Meanwhile, I'm going to unwrap my YouTube play button. I think this is the size of a YouTube play button that's in their plaques when they give them out. This is also from scratch. You have to scratch the saran wrap to get it to tear. Ow, it's sharp. I can sue over that. Hurts. Ooh, got it. I can tell you it smells worse than soap, but it is acrylic. It's just an acrylic button, which maybe can light up. Not sure. Yeah, with the right light behind it, it can sort of illuminate. But does it scream? It does nothing. It does nothing. It's really hard to be surprised at Christmas when we order everything on Amazon and I get notifications to my phone. I'm trying not to read them, though. No, this Breezy, this one, or sorry, Reverend Beezy, this one, it was just for, I completed a survey that YouTube asked me to participate in, and they sent me a thank you piece of plastic. Okay, pie's done. Pie's done. We're watching the ceiling as we wait for this sidebar to end, which might actually end the trial before it begins. There's a possibility they're discussing a change of plea, negotiations, a plea deal. The jury was just sat and given notebooks and said, take notes, here comes the opening statements, and then we had this sidebar. We've been there ever since. Hold on, I need to go fix the pie. I'll be right back. All right, so we got the crumble top put on. It's back in the oven for 10 more minutes. Let's see. We may play a little music here while we wait. I think I burned my finger. I used a hot pad, like one of those mitts, to grab the pan, but the mitts were like twisted, and it has like the side you grab with, and then the back side that's just decorative. So I grabbed the pan, and while I've got like one arm holding the pie box, trying to read the instructions, and I'm taking the pan out of the oven, I realized that I've used the decorative side, and so it got my finger a little bit. It zinged me. 400 degrees. We were going to play a little music. For those that missed out, we had yesterday, Sarah Boone was kind enough to implicate us, meaning all of us in the world of true crime here on YouTube, as organized crime. Social media and everything as organized crime, and basically called us the mafia of LawTube. And I took the liberty of asking AI to commemorate the occasion where we were informed that that's who we are by putting together a little song in the style of Frank Sinatra, which you have to be sort of tricky with because you can't give it names. It doesn't like that. But I did come up with this little ditty, nice and smooth, sentimental jazz is probably what I'd go with. And I only included Ian Runkle and Rob from Lawn Lumber in this song because I'm confident they won't sue me over this because it does basically say we're all criminals.
Recovery addict with a smile so sly, under moonlit screens whispers fly. Uncle of the Bailey, a lawyer's grin. In the shadows, deals begin. With the gaze so keen, he reads the lies. In the court of Pickles, justice flies. Oh, the godfathers of YouTube land, with secrets held and blood on their hands. Charming devils in suits and ties. Behind those screens, the truth belies. More than godfathers of YouTube land, with secrets held and blood on their hands. Charming devils in suits and ties. Behind those screens, the truth belies. Law and lumber strong as oak, building empires with words bespoke. In the courtroom of online fame, their legacies etched, never the same.
Yeah.
Late nights in their digital den, playing the roles of virtuous men. But in the glow of the blue-lit screens, echoes of their past unseen. Oh, the godfathers of YouTube land, with secrets held and blood on their hands. Charming devils in suits and ties. Behind those screens, the truth belies.
Readers heard this in the mall yesterday. Love the finish. That was great. Who's playing the bass? Rob. Rob is on bass. Ian on the piano. Yes, and I'm just here for the good looks. So I'm waiting for the waiter to serve me our martini with the pickle, the new RA Jazz Bar. RA on the drum. I could play the drums. Yeah, a little bit of the what's that called? The snare where you use the brush. The brush. I could do this. I could do this. Claire, wait, what a way to celebrate my 3 months. I love it. Thank you, Claire. Appreciate that. A Pink Swan says, awesome song. Great fun. It was. We like to have a little fun here. Between the heavy bits, and there are plenty of days where it's heavy. It's really heavy. So it was blood on the keyboards. Yes, that line got me as well. Let me see if I can give you the lyrics. I'll read them to you because we've got time. Let's see, it goes like this. In the alleyways of the internet dark, three faces rise, igniting a spark. Recovery addict with a smile so sly, under moonlit screens, whispers fly. Runkle of the Bailey, a lawyer's grin. In the shadows, deals begin. With a gaze so keen, he reads the lies. In the court of Pickles, justice flies. Oh, the godfathers of YouTube land, with secrets held and blood on their hands. Charming devils in suits and ties, behind those screens the truth belies. Law and lumber, strong as oak, building empires with words bespoke. In the courtroom of online fame, their legacies etched, never the same. And then the bridge. Late nights in their digital den, playing the roles of virtuous men, but in the glow of the blue-lit screens, echoes of their past unseen. Oh, the godfathers of YouTube land, with the secrets held and blood on their hands. Charming devils in suits and ties, behind those screens the truth belies. I thought it was pretty good. I was using that was only 3.5. That was not version 4, by the way. Version 4 is supposed to be able to do a little better on the words. Let's see. Who wrote that song? I gave AI some prompts. I basically used all the space I was allowed to say what type of music I wanted, the feel. I wanted it to be, sentimental jazz, acoustic type feel. That's in sort of Frank Sinatra style, and then included lyrics about our 3 channels. Only because I haven't got permission from anyone else to really sort of poke fun at them. But Ian and Rob are good friends, and I think they would see it in the fun it was intended. And And so I didn't put in like Emily or Peter Tragos or anything like that. So, or some of our other friends here on YouTube. But does Mrs. Ari sing? Yeah, we all sing. Whether what you have my permission. All right. Here in the next one. Oh, to make fun of Adam. Okay, I should have. It was a two-parter. I'm gonna frame this part and ignore this part. It's good stuff. Anyway, with a few prompts, and I told it to use a couple words and phrases, like I told it to refer to them as the Godfathers and things like that. But it puts together the words. I don't think they've heard it. I'm not sure if they will. It's not that great. It's not like it's going to go on the best of hits. But I give permission for Kurt. Kurt would appreciate it too, I think. Yeah, I wasn't going to go too much with some of the phrases that are unique to their channels. Wood Daddy obviously being up there with Rob on Law and Lumber. I did a version with a lot of law tubers in it. I'm not going to play it for you because I don't think they would. It didn't treat everyone fairly. Let's put it that way. Some people were painted more as villains than other people. Where Emily was praised for her smooth, buttery voice, and it was great, but it just didn't work out well. I missed on that one. I do actually write songs. Yes. Thank you. I've written actual songs that I play on the guitar. There's a Christmas one. Might share that. Oh, Mrs. R.A., would you be a deer, or do I have to get up and run and get the pie out of the oven? Because the duck is quacking. That means that the pie is done. Is there anything you can't do? Well, I'm not saying I'm doing them well. I do things that I don't do well. So just because I've written songs does not mean they're necessarily good or that you would enjoy hearing it. I'll be a deer. Thank you, Mrs. R.A. And then slice of pie with a little. No, I don't know. I'm not sure if I can ask that. I made it for you, honey. Yay, we're having pie. This is a long break. I've got to tell you, this trial is going to end before it begins. I just can't see anything else happening. Another wee taste of Scotland on its way for Christmas, and it's not Iron Brew. There's enough to share. Ooh. Haggis. No. What could it be? I don't think it's haggis. Because I don't think... I think haggis is against there are international treaties against shipping that to any other country. I've actually enjoyed haggis every time I ate it. But thank you, Sloth Life. I'm excited. I'm excited to hear. Scotch eggs. Oh, please. If there's a company, let's say like in the Greenville area, that started serving Scotch eggs, and by a Scotch egg, we're talking a hard-boiled egg, peeled, wrapped in sausage, rolled in bread crumbs, and deep fried. It's about the size of a softball, and it's healthy because it has a mixture of foods in it with the breadcrumbs and the meat. I would single-handedly keep them in business. It would be like a Scotch egg for a snack, and then one for a meal, and then one for a snack between the next, and then another one for the meal. And you might think, what's appealing about eating an egg shaped like a softball? Oh, it will change your life. It is so good. He did ask to plead guilty. Yes, we're hearing that there's some sort of attempt to change the plea right now. We're just waiting for the final word. There are rumors rising. They serve them at Universal Studios at the Harry Potter restaurants. Oh, I always got them at the Chippy over in England. I mean, there's a Chippy on every corner. You can get a Scotch egg all over the place. I don't question any of your eating habits or food tastes since that milk night. We might have part 2 on Thursday. Well, I can tell you, we'll talk a little bit about food on Thursday. I haven't added it to Rundown yet, but I've got a little something. You make Scotch eggs every Christmas? I just need the recipe, and I realize I've told you the 3 things that are in it, but I need like the instructions, like how hot to cook them, how hot to cook the oil for deep fry. Ooh, here we go. We're back. He's pleading to accessory after the fact.
Well, what I would like to do, given the fact that the Pickles family is just now being notified of this, I want to make sure that they have ample time to be here. They'd like to.
That's all we heard. He wants to enter a guilty plea to accessory after the fact. The audio is terrible here. But I don't know if that just removes one of the charges. He'll plead guilty to that and be sentenced and then be tried on the other ones, but not have that accessory after the fact wrapped into this one. Because this might be a strategic move. If you have the strongest evidence the state has against you is for that last charge, you're going to get convicted. Take that off the table for the jury, and then it weakens the evidence against the other charges. I want to hear as well. They've turned the mics off. Oh my goodness. Roof's caving in. You need a roof rake. It basically causes an avalanche on your house, but it saves the weight off the roof. I'm little dear. Your Scottish mom would understand, I think. Let her know that I've got Scottish blood in me as well. As a matter of fact, my entire name, first, middle, and last, are Scottish, named after a great uncle. Born in Banff. I'm telling you, I've got the connections. She would understand. Putting the mic on the street was a bold move. It was, especially during whatever storm they're having right now. Scott McScott. That's pretty much it. Scottish. Well, it's not Irish, Sarah. It's not Irish. Mom's from Belfast. I look forward to it. That sounds exciting. I'll see if I can talk Mrs. R.A. into doing that. I didn't know Dwayne was a Scottish name. Great history there up in Canada. Why did I say Canada? Scotland. I don't know where Canada came from. I was thinking Scotland the whole time. It's all right, Sarah Beth. I got it. I was just playing with you. This trial, if it begins, which it looks like it will, but now with one of the charges off the table because he wants to plead guilty to it. This is a strategic move. Jury's coming in. They get sent home for the day. Focus is terrible.
Again, thank you for being here. I appreciate your patience, and we'll see y'all's going to continue.
So a little bit of a plea change, not a plea deal. At least no deal that we've been told the details of yet.
Anything else you said? And that would be sufficient time for the Pickles family. If they would like to understand you mentioned it, maybe were to have a written statement or anything like that, or be present for another member for that.
Thank you. As I said, he just started a new job. He's forced to take care of his courthouse siblings in this case. So it's very difficult for him to be on for him. So,
and as far as the defense, that should give you all the time to do as far as your communication. Thank you so much. We'll get eased in tomorrow morning at 9:30.
And they're done for the day.
it's more of a housekeeping issue that I do think we need to address it. I was talking to the jail has a shower between 9 and 12 and 1 and 5, and obviously he gets showered and takes his duty to shower. We asked one of the guards to make sure he can shower.
Is that something? Okay. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. All right. Anything else? We'll be easy till tomorrow morning at 9:30. Thank you.
Okay. Off goes the audio. Off goes. They're done for the day until 9:30. If the audio is not fixed tomorrow, we cannot watch this case. It is no bueno. Let me see what I can do post. Give me a second here. Let's bring all this down. Stop that. Bring all that down here. Audio, voice isolation. I'm going to go back and just listen to part of this, see if I can, in post work, fix the audio.
He showered and takes his duty to shower. We asked one of the guards to make sure he can shower.
Is that something? Okay. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. All right. Anything else?
It's not much better. Let's see. When my lights turn off. There we go. We're back. Okay, we're going to try that right there. Try it one more time.
12 and 1 and 5, and obviously he gets showered and takes his duty to shower. We asked one of the guards to make sure he can shower.
Is that something?
Okay. It's so bad. It's so bad. It's on everyone's feed. The microphone placement in this court is somewhere outside in a windstorm. We might have to just summarize. Let's see. See what else do we have going right now. We've got something out of Fulton County, which is probably not what this channel wants to follow. Judge Cedric's administering an oath of office to somebody. check. Give me just 1 second. We might jump up to the fishing trial. Josh, I think we might have to do some ice fishing trial. All right. Jury trial, we're going to start with part 1. This might just be a one-day trial. This will tide us over for a little bit. The state of Michigan, county of Huron, this is an ice fishing dispute that could have been a murder trial if it ended differently. This might be triggering, particularly in our household. Dontel is done for the day, so.
Members of the jury may be seated.
Jury trial. It's a pretty good plaque on the wall. Miss McGuire says, "Hey, that's home. That's home." For those that don't know, there's an etiquette to ice fishing, and even though the entire lake is available, we've got a spam call. Hello? 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 I tried, guys. I tried. Let me see if I can skip through this intro a little bit. There we go.
On the record, court recalls matter of people of the state of Michigan versus Tanner Cody Carr, 24-7107H. This is the beginning of jury trial. Members of the jury have returned from lunch. I hope you had a great lunch. We will begin with some opening instructions. After that, there will be opening statements, and then testimony will be presented. Just a word to the wise, and some of you may be familiar with this, some of you may not. We have been putting our jury trials on the YouTube channel. However, I want to stress to each and every one of the jurors, you are not depicted. You will not be put in the video in any way, shape, or form. We make sure we take care of our jurors, so you need not worry about that.
Unless
but it also means something else. During the course of the trial, if we take a recess or anything like that, I'm instructing you not to look at the YouTube channel if you do look at it or have looked at it in the past. Just want to put that disclosure out there first and foremost. We'll begin with some instructions, and you will be provided, and I failed to bring it out, but I will bring it out in a little bit. You will be given a written copy of the instructions I'm going to read to you. You may refer to them during the trial, and since no one can predict the course of the trial, these instructions may change at the end of the trial. At the close of the trial, of course, you'll be provided with a copy of final instructions for your use during your deliberations. Now I will explain some of the legal principles you will need to know and the procedure that we will follow in this trial. As you're aware, the defendant is charged in counts 1 through 3 with assault with intent to do great bodily harm less than murder. Now, to prove these charges, the prosecutor must prove each of the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, and I'm shortening them because at the conclusion of the trial, depending on how the trial proceeds, I'm only going to read this instruction once as it pertains to all three alleged victims, just to save some time. But the elements are still the same. First, that the defendant tried to physically injure another person. Second, that at the time of the assault, the defendant had the ability to cause an injury, or at least believed that he had the ability. And third, that the defendant intended to cause great bodily harm. Actual injury is not necessary, but if there was an injury, you may consider it as evidence in deciding whether the defendant intended to cause great bodily harm. Great bodily harm means any physical injury that could seriously harm the health or function of the body. That's counts 1 through 3. The defendant is charged in count 4 with felonious operation of a vessel. To prove this charge, the prosecutor must prove each of the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, that the defendant operated a vessel. Vessel means every description of watercraft used or capable of being used as a means of transportation on water.
Could be a canoe.
Second, that the defendant operated that vessel carelessly and heedlessly and in a willful or wanton disregard of the rights or safety of others, and at a speed or in a manner as to endanger or be likely to endanger any person or property. Willful or wanton disregard means more than simple carelessness, but does not require proof of an intent to cause harm. It means knowingly disregarding the possible risks to the safety of people or property. Third, that this willful and wanton disregard of the public safety was a substantial cause of a crippling injury to Kenneth Allen Leseski. Crippling injury means, 1, to deprive of the use of a limb, particularly of a leg or foot, to lame, or 2, to deprive of strength, activity, or capability for service. It is not necessary that the crippling injury be permanent, nor the most severely incapacitating injuries that one might imagine. The defendant is charged in count 5 with obstructing or interfering sports fishing. To prove this charge, the prosecutor must prove each of the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, that Kenneth Jason Leseski was involved in the lawful taking of an aquatic species, to wit, fish. Second, that the defendant intentionally or knowingly operated a vessel to significantly alter the behavior of aquatic species in order to hinder or prevent the lawful taking of an aquatic species.
Okay, so hold tight for just a second. First of all, the judge just listed a law that's very important, and it sort of ties into this question about what we were saying about fishing etiquette. When you're ice fishing, just like when you're normally fishing, there is an invisible bubble around you. And the more people that are fishing the water, the smaller that bubble shrinks. If there are hundreds of people there, you can see people shoulder to shoulder. And although it's not optimum, that's basically how it is. But if there are not hundreds of people crowding around one little pond, you should give people their space, both on the shore and in the area where they are fishing, their cast range. You should not cast like super far into someone else's area, nor should you, as soon as they reel in, cast over and take their spot of the guy next to you because he caught a fish there and you want to catch a fish now. Also, you should not set up right next to somebody else. You're supposed to leave room. If you are going to approach and be near, talk to them first. Ask permission. Is it all right if I set up over here? Is this too close? And he's going to be like, what? I can't hear you. Yell louder. And you're like, is this too close? And he'll say, yes. So, yeah, you don't do that. The judge just read the rules that, seriously, it is a big enough issue that fishermen, and this is in many different states, fishermen have got laws on the books to make it illegal to interrupt somebody while fishing. He's like, hey, I'm allowed to fish here. You cannot interrupt me. It is a crime. It is a crime. And that's one of the things that this guy was charged with. So we're going to continue with our reading of the charges here.
The defendant is charged in count 6 with reckless operation of a vessel. To prove this charge, the prosecutor must prove each of the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, that the defendant operated a vessel upon the waters of the state. To operate means to drive or have actual physical control of the vessel. Vessel means every description of watercraft used or capable of being used as a means of transportation on water. Second, that the defendant operated a vessel carelessly and heedlessly in disregard of the rights or safety of others, or without due caution and circumspection, and in a manner so as to endanger or likely to endanger any person or property. A person accused of a crime or crimes is presumed to be innocent. This means you must start with the presumption that the defendant is innocent. This presumption continues throughout the trial and entitles the defendant to a verdict of not guilty unless you are satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt that he is guilty. Every crime is made up of parts called elements. The prosecutor must prove each element of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. The defendant is not required to prove his innocence or to do anything. If you find that the prosecutor has not proven every element beyond a reasonable doubt, then you must find the defendant not guilty. A reasonable doubt is a fair and honest doubt growing out of the evidence or lack of evidence. It's not merely an imaginary or possible doubt, but a doubt based on reason and common sense.
The trial ended for the day.
Just that, a doubt that is reasonable after a careful and considered examination of the facts and circumstances of this case. And the trial follows this procedure. First, the prosecutor makes an opening statement where he gives his theories about the case. The defendant's lawyer does not have to make an opening statement, but he may make an opening statement after the prosecutor makes his, or he may wait until later. These statements are not evidence. They are only meant to help you understand how each side views the case. Next, the prosecutor presents his evidence. The prosecutor may call witnesses to testify and may show you exhibits like documents or objects. The defendant's lawyer has the right to cross-examine the prosecutor's witnesses. After the prosecutor has presented all his evidence, the defendant's attorney may also offer evidence, but does not have to. By law, the defendant does not have to prove his innocence or produce any evidence. If the defense does call any witnesses, the prosecutor has the right to cross-examine them. The prosecutor may also call witnesses to contradict the testimony of the defense witnesses. After all the evidence has been presented, the prosecutor and defendant's lawyer will make their closing arguments. Now, just like the opening statements, these are not evidence. They are only meant to help you understand the evidence and the way each side sees the case. You must base your verdict only on the evidence. My responsibilities as the judge in this trial are to make sure that the trial is run fairly and efficiently, to make decisions about evidence, and to instruct you about the law that applies to the case. You must take the law as I give it to you. Nothing I say is meant to reflect my own opinions about the facts of the case. As jurors, you are the ones who will decide this case. Your responsibility as jurors is to decide what the facts of the case are. And that is your job and no one else's. You must think about all the evidence and all the testimony, and then decide what each piece of evidence means and how important you think it is. This includes how much you believe what each of the witnesses said. What you decide about any fact in this case is final. Part of your job in deciding what the facts of this case are is to decide which witnesses you believe and how important you think their testimony is. You do not have to accept or reject everything a witness says. You are free to believe all, none, or part of any person's testimony. Now, in deciding which testimony you believe, you should rely on your own common sense and everyday experience. However, in deciding whether you believe a person's testimony, you must set aside any bias or prejudice you may have based upon the witness's disability, race, national origin, or ethnicity, gender, gender identity, or sexual orientation or religion, age, or socioeconomic status. Sir, would you please remove your cap?
Sir, no hats in court, please.
There's no fixed set of rules for judging whether you believe a witness, but it may help you to think about these questions. Was the witness able to see or hear clearly? How long was the witness watching or listening? Was anything else going on that might have distracted the witness? Does the witness seem to have a good memory? How does the witness look and act while testifying? Does the witness seem to be making an honest effort to tell the truth? Or does the witness seem to evade the questions or argue with the lawyers? Does the witness's age or maturity affect how you decide his or her testimony? Does the witness have any bias or prejudice or any personal interest in how the case is decided? Have there been any promises, threats, or suggestions or other influences that affect how the witness testifies. In general, does the witness have any special reason to tell the truth or any special reason to lie? All in all, how reasonable does a witness's testimony seem when you think about all the other evidence in the case? When it is time for you to decide the case, you are only allowed to consider the evidence that was admitted in the case. Evidence includes only the sworn testimony of witnesses, the exhibits admitted into evidence, and anything else I tell you to consider as evidence. The questions the lawyers ask the witnesses are not evidence. Only the answers are evidence. You should not think that something is true just because one of the lawyers asks questions that assume or suggest that it is. I may ask some witnesses questions myself. Now, these questions are not meant to reflect my opinion about the evidence. If I ask questions, my only reason would be to ask about things that may not have been fully explored. As I've said before, if you cannot hear something that is said or presented, or if you cannot see a witness or evidence, please let us know. Please raise your hand immediately. During the trial, the lawyers may object to certain questions or statements made by the other lawyers or witnesses. I will rule on those objections according to the law. My rulings for or against one side or the other are not meant to reflect my opinions about the facts of the case. Sometimes the lawyers and I will have discussions out of your hearing. Also, while you're in the jury room, I may have to take care of other matters that have nothing to do with this case. Please pay no attention to those interruptions. Try and keep them to a minimum, especially when I have to attend to other matters.
I like the judge's chair.
You must not discuss the case, as I've stated before. You must not discuss the case with anyone, including family members or friends. You must not even discuss it with the other jurors until the time comes for you to decide the case. When it is time for you to decide the case, I will send you to the jury room for that purpose. Then you should discuss the case among yourselves, but only in the jury room and only when all the jurors are there. As I've stated as well, you must not talk to the defendant, the lawyers, the witnesses, or anyone who may be connected to this case. This means that you may not speak to these individuals, even if it has nothing to do with the case. You should be very cautious about speaking to people because you may inadvertently speak to someone connected to this case. This restriction is necessary to avoid even the appearance of any improper conduct on any person's part. If anyone tries to discuss the case with you or in your presence, please tell them to stop, explain that you are a juror and you are not allowed to discuss the case. If they continue, leave and report the incident to court staff or me as soon as you return to court. When the trial is over, these restrictions no longer apply. When the trial is over, you may, if you wish, discuss the case with anyone. The restrictions I'm about to describe are meant to ensure that the parties get a fair trial. In our judicial system, it is crucial that jurors are not influenced by anything or anyone outside the courtroom. Under the law, the evidence you consider must meet certain standards. So, for example, witnesses must swear to tell the truth, and the lawyers must be able to cross-examine them. Because information obtained outside the courtroom does not have these same safeguards, it could give you incorrect or misleading information that might unfairly favor one side. These restrictions start now and continue until I discharge you from jury service. It is your duty as a juror to decide this case based solely on the evidence you see and hear in this courtroom. You must not consider information that comes from anywhere else. This means that until you deliver your verdict, you must not read, watch, or listen to, receive any information, including opinions or commentary about the case, whether a newspaper, television, radio, internet, or other social media platforms. You may also not research any aspect of the case during the trial. This means research using cell phones, computers, or other electronic devices to search the internet, as well as research with traditional sources, which sadly we don't use as much, like dictionaries, reference manuals,
added that part.
Newspapers, or magazines.
Sadly.
You must not investigate the case on your own or conduct any experiments concerning the case, including investigation or experiments using the internet, cell phones, computers, or other electronic devices. You must not visit the scene of any event at issue in this trial. If it is necessary for you to view or visit the scene, court staff will take you there as a group under court supervision.
Ooh,
You must not consider as evidence any personal knowledge you have of the scene. You must not share any information about this case by any means, including cell phones or social media. This means that even if you are not discussing the case with someone else, you may not post any information about the case on social media websites or in any other manner. So please keep the selfies to yourself, please.
Keep the
If you discover that a juror that has violated these instructions, please report it to your court staff. As you enter the courtroom, you saw that there are notepads and pens on your individual chairs. You may take notes during the trial if you wish. However, you don't have to. If you do take notes, you should be careful that it does not distract you from paying attention to all the evidence. When you go to the jury room to decide your verdict, you may use your notes to help you remember what happened in the courtroom. If you do take notes, do not let anyone except the other jurors see them during deliberations. Your notes will not be examined by anyone, and when your jury service concludes, your notes will be collected and destroyed. So if you do take notes during the course of the trial, whether we take a break or conclude for the day, just simply place your notepad upside down on your individual chair. That will ensure that no one will be able to see your notes. Possible penalties.
I've updated the court
your decision.
name
If
on
you
our
find the defendant
title.
guilty, it is the duty of the judge to fix the penalty within the limits provided by law. As I stated, I may give you more instructions during the trial, and after all the evidence has been presented, you will hear the lawyer's closing arguments. Following the closing arguments, I will give you additional instructions about the rules of law that apply to this case. You should consider all of my instructions as a connected series. Taken all together, they are the law that you must follow. After my final instructions, you will go to the jury room to decide on your verdict. A verdict must be unanimous. Unanimous. That means that every juror must agree on it, and it must reflect the individual decision of each juror. Most important, it is important for you to keep an open mind and not make a decision about anything in the case until you go to the jury room to decide the case. You must not let bias, prejudice, or public opinion influence your decision. Each of us may have biases or perceptions about other people based on stereotypes. We may be aware of some of our biases, though we do not express them. We may not be fully aware of some of our other biases. Take the time, that is, you need to test what might be automatic or instinctive judgments and to reflect carefully about the evidence. Again, I caution you to avoid reaching conclusions that may have been unintentionally influenced by stereotypes. You must reach your own verdict. You must reach your own conclusions about the case individually. But you should do so only after listening to and considering the opinions of other jurors who may have different backgrounds and perspectives from yours. That concludes the preliminary instructions in this matter, and Mr. Wallace may begin your inquiry.
Okay, so hold on for just 1 second. We're going to pause for just a second. The judge has given his instructions to the jury. These are typical instructions. The difference is this trial is not a murder trial. This trial is literally about a fishing dispute. It could have cost someone their life because, believe it or not, ice fishing is dangerous. And in this particular instance, we're going to hear about the fact that there were two groups, one out fishing. I believe they were both using airboats, those flat-bottom boats that they use down in Florida for hunting gators or whatever. They were using those because the ice probably was not safe enough to go out to, or it's just easier to transport out there on the boats. But the ice was not thick, but they were ice fishing from a boat. A group of like 3 men out there fishing. Then this other guy, who was the defendant, comes up in another airboat, and an argument ensues. We believe that was an argument that was started previously. Let's put it that way. This was an old bad blood starts here. It ends with the new guy who came up in the boat driving circles around the other guy on the ice and breaking the ice up, which disrupts the fishing, hence the disrupting fishing charge. But 2 of the party are able to make it to safe ice. One of them falls in the water. And it's deep enough. It's only 8 feet deep, but it's deep enough that he cannot touch the ground. He's fully clothed in winter clothes. That's basically It's super, super dangerous. First of all, the ice water, you have just minutes before you are not able to help in your own rescue. If at the best, minutes, sometimes seconds. You become an anchor. That's right, Weather Watch. You become your own anchor. So he was, I think his name was Bob. No, I don't know who he was. He was bobbing in the water. And his friends were able to rescue and pull him out. I think the way I heard the story told is he did not, help arrived and he rejected help. Okay. But there was a while that he was sort of on his own and lost the ability to help with his own rescue, which is why the other charge came in about depriving somebody of the use of limbs and things like that. So now we go on to the opening statements, and we're going to pick up right there. With the little
back on February 23rd of this year, over in Comana Road and Walpath Road there in Huron County, then it was on an airboat. We decided to take that airboat and try to hit and hurt and Jason Verseski.
Tried to hit and hurt?
And what you're going to hear, ladies and gentlemen, is about that day and how Kenneth Leseski, and there's two Kenneth Leseskis here. As you may have heard the witnesses there.
There are two Kenneth Leseskis.
One is Kenneth Jason Leseski, and one is Kenneth Alan Leseski.
Good. That'll help clear things up.
And Jason, sometimes you'll hear, is called Little Kenny. He's the younger, he's the son. And Kenneth Allen, sometimes called Big Kenny, is the father.
Little Kenny, Big Kenny. Jay is Little Kenny. Alan is Big Kenny.
Kenneth Jason lives just by this cut. And we've been using that word cut a little bit in Bois d'Arrêt, you may have heard it. Another word we use now. Water comes in there off the bay.
Bless you.
Now this particular canal or cut is at the end of the road there. And as you'll hear to get to it, there's actually a fence there. It's a private property area to get to it. And the son has authority, permission from the owner to go there and fish. And he enjoyed going ice fishing. And on the 23rd of February, in the morning hours, that's what he did. His father was already there. Kenneth Allen Leseski.
So dad and son.
And as they were fishing, you hear things are going pretty good.
We've got a chart.
Still a good, firm bit of ice on the canal there. And there was no concerns at all for safety. But it was getting towards the end of the season for ice fishing. Since it was going so good, so well for them at that time, the son called his friend, Craig Reynolds. Hey, let's come on over here. Join us.
These are the three who went out fishing together.
So at that point, then the three of them are now fishing together. As you hear, this canal is a fairly deep one when it's warm. About 12 foot in the center there towards the end, and around 9 feet around the edges there, where they were fishing at. But there again, there was no concerns. At that point in time, as they're fishing there, you can hear something out there, something like an airboat. Okay, no issue on that. And then in the airport, you could hear it getting closer. And it came into that particular cut of that canal that they were at. And as it was coming in, they could see that there were two people on that airboat.
And you can see that as it's coming in, it's actually breaking up the ice of the cut.
Jill, welcome.
Got a little closer. And at that point in time, both Kenneth Jason Leseski and Kenneth Alan Leseski, and also Craig Gremmel, recognized one of the people in the airboat as the defendant. The other person they did not know. The defendant started talking and asking how things are going. As you will hear from the testimony, Craig Gremmel responded, things are going fine. And then the defense said, well, can't you two talk to me, to the father and son? And they had been basically ignoring him. They didn't have anything to do with him. They no longer wanted to have any connection with him. The defendant started escalating his words, getting louder, getting angrier, apparently. And finally, it came to the point where the father, Kenneth Allen, said, Tanner, get a grip.
Tanner, get a grip?
And the defense response was, I'll get a grip. And he guns the airboat directly at his son, Kenneth Jason Leseski.
Whoa. Tries to hit the son?
As you will hear, Kenneth Jason, get off the ice. Get out of here. So he starts running towards the shore, as does his father, but as you may well imagine, slower than his son. And Craig is also starting to scramble for the shore. Jason hears the airboat coming up behind him. He's running for shore. He didn't slip. He made it to the shore. So he went to a spot. You'll see, I believe, in exhibits where there was rocks that he was headed towards, because he knew that the airboat would not go there.
Okay, so apparently there's only one airboat in the story. The other three men
He
are just
made it to the
standing
shore.
there.
Here's the airboat go by him, breaking up ice as it goes along. You hear from Craig Gremmel as he was able, he started a little second later, but he was going to the center of the cut there where he was fishing at, so it's sort of at the end, and you can see the defendant circling around him. Kenneth Jason Leseski gets on the shore, turns around, sees the defendant going by, hears the defendant swear at them, flipped him off with his finger, and kept on going. And by that same time, he looks over, he sees Craig get to the shore, and he sees his dad in the water. You'll hear from the father of how he was going and he just went in. And he's trying to get out of the water. He's trying to get out of it. It's wintertime, it's February.
What was that siren?
He's not able to at that point. Craig comes over where he's at, where Kenneth Allen's located at. Kenneth Jason comes over as well. And they're trying to pull him out. And they're trying. I'm not sure about the ice out because it was rolled up by the airboat. They're not able to get him out. You can't pull him up.
We're in Michigan.
This is not going to impugn anything or anything. As you'll see from when you see Mr. Leseski testify, the father, he's a big man. Craig tells Kenneth, the son, you gotta go get something to help us pull him out. And as you well imagine, the son doesn't want to, but finally agrees to do so. And he was running towards his house, and as he's going down towards the road there by his house, a car comes out of one of the side roads there. He flags it down and says, hey, you have anything, go help. That person goes down to the ice, Then Jason continues on to his house and then comes back in minutes. All the while, his dad's in the water there.
It's dangerous.
He gets back, and then between him and Craig and the Good Samaritan, they were able to pull out the father. They got a rope, and with that, and the three of them, they were able to finally pull him out. And he, as you can well imagine, he collapses there in the shore there for a moment or two. He's been in the water for several minutes. The little estimate is 10 to 15 minutes, I believe.
Whoa. He was a popsicle.
They finally get him up and take him to his son's home. And there's a heated garage there. They take him in there, take the clothes off, of course, and try to start warming him up.
They made him stick in the garage?
As you'll hear from the father, he remembers he's taking the short, and that's about all he can remember at that point until waking up at the house.
Dad ended up in the water.
You'll also hear that the father,
Kenneth A.
that day, you know, imagine this, to feel the cold. And he still tried to work, had to leave early from work. And the next day he went and saw a doctor. And he had problems in his hand, his fingers. They weren't working as they should. And it took time to heal because of what had happened there at that cut. What you'll hear is that the defendant and Jason Sasky have known each other for years. As I've written in his letters, as well as the father.
Clearly, that's the bad guy because he's in the ring.
That's how we can identify him as the one in the airboat. That's when the father says to him, Tanner, do the grip. Calls him by name. Kenneth, Jason, my son, calls the police, reports what happened. And that's where Deputy Barwig, make sure I get it right this time, and Sergeant Jake Dice respond. As you'll hear at that time, Deputy Barwig was a fairly new patrol officer. And Sergeant Dice was his what's called a field training officer, FTO, and was making sure he's learning the ropes, so to speak. And they responded, spoke with the three gentlemen. You still didn't know who the other person was on the airboat. But they knew who the one person was. So they went to try to talk to the defendant that day. And they weren't able to. They didn't connect. You'll hear the next day, I anticipate, that they did speak with the defendant. Sergeant Dice and Deputy Barwig. And then went to
check for closed captioning.
What his response was to the police is, yeah, I was out fishing, but I wasn't anywhere near, he didn't say it about that way, but basically, I was at another cut. I did not go down that cut. I did not see anybody. I did not talk to anybody while I was out fishing. I was fishing by myself. Sergeant Dice, as you'll hear at that time, of course in a full uniform, was wearing what's called a body cam. Was recorded that conversation that they had. I anticipate you'll be able to watch and hear what was said during that conversation. And at a later point in time, the person who was with the defendant was identified as Kendall Miriam. And I anticipate you will hear from him what he saw and heard. on that day, February 23rd.
I think he's behind a couple on PowerPoint slides.
As the court indicated, and what you look at during this time is the instructions. I'm just going to go over these so you can start thinking about this as we hear the evidence and whether or not I'm getting to certain parts of that for the evidence. One of the elements is, and again, as I said earlier on here, if I say something wrong, the judge is the one that determines what the law is. What I believe he'll tell you is essentially that in the first three counts, and one count is for Kenneth Jason, one count is for Kenneth Allen, and one count is for Craig Gremmel. And that's why there's three counts.
3 counts of assault with intent
And
to
those three
create bodily
counts,
harm.
that the defendant tried to physically injure the person with using the air bolt. So he had the ability, or believed he had the ability. And then when he did so, his intent was to create great bodily harm, or in other words, seriously harm the health or function of the body.
Those are the first 3 charges.
Count 4, we'll look at the operation of a vessel, that he operated a vessel, and we're saying in this case, we're alleging that it was the airboat. It's capable of being used as a means of transportation on water.
That's a vessel.
That he operated carelessly and heedlessly, willful, wanton disregard of the rights or safety of others. And again, you'll get more information on that, of what that means from the court. You already had, and you'll get more of that again once we, at the very end of this case. And then also, that because of that operation, there was a crippling injury suffered. And as I indicated, what we expect you to hear is that crippling injury to be the father, Kenneth Allen. Count 5, obstructing or interfering, that Kenneth Jason was fishing, lawfully fishing. And at that time, the defendant intentionally and knowingly operated that vessel to prevent or alter the fish's behavior so he couldn't fish anymore.
You can't throw rocks to scare the fish off.
Then 6 is the reckless operation, operate the vessel in the water, and carelessly and heedlessly in disregard for the safety and rights of others. Those are all 6 counts, and each one's an individual count. So as we get through this, ladies and gentlemen, at the end, we'll be talking about each of those counts. Because they're individually aspected. And the court will tell you later on that part of your job is to look at each one individually and discuss that one, and then go to the next one and move on from there. What I just went through is a rough summary. What I anticipate the evidence will be in this case. I have no doubt there'll be more than that. I'm not going to give you all the stuff. You're going to hear it. You're going to see it. But I will be asking at the end of the proofs, the base of everything you hear and see today and into tomorrow, I will be asking to come back with a verdict of guilty as charged, based on all of the others. Thank you.
This Zoom.
Carr, would you like to make your opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, we do get a defense opening statement. This Zoom audio is terrible, but.
This is the story
of a man named. No.
Kenny Chesky and Jason Chesky. And Cody Carr. They grew up together. See, right? Knew each other their whole lives. Fishing together, playing together. Aaron Carr was even in Kenny Chesky, and Jason and Chesky's one of the groomsmen. But there was a breach of that friendship.
He's a mumbler.
Breach happened because there was an affair. Fortunately, Mr. Carr had an affair, and he was Chesky's wife.
What?
That created the breach. They used to be best friends. And that trust was broken.
Mr. Carr and young
For years,
son's wife?
Mr. Carr has wanted to resolve this. He has wanted to bury the hatchet so everyone could move on. Cleveland is a small city, a small community. Everyone knows each other. Fortunately, Mr. Leszewski did not want to bury that. Several times, Mr. Carr reached out. We talked, we get this resolved. No avail. This has been going on for years. Mr. Carr wants this to be over. But behind the scenes, Mr. Leszewski likes to talk. You'll actually see videos today of what Mr. Leszewski thinks of. After the alleged incident happened, the cops flew around. Barwick, even in courtroom, and started fights. During the course of that conversation, you see them talking, laughing about all of this. Mr. Leszewski believes that Tanner Carr is worthless, it's pathetic. He knows that Mr. Carr is going to be receiving a big settlement. And he mentioned it 3 times. Screw around with my wife. Animosity. A lot of animosity. So what happened on February 23rd? Tanner Carr, he's a fisherman. He's a hunter and he's a fisherman. That's what he likes to do in his free time. He has a fiance or soon to be fiance, Gabriel Spicer, who will testify today. He also has kids. He's a friend. He would do anything for anyone. So what does he do? He goes down the street. Kendall, why don't we go fishing? He was a bit of a timid guy, as you'll see today. We'll take out the airboat. And that's what they do. Now this is towards the end of the season. So this is end of February. You have water and you have some ice, some thin ice. So where do they go? They go to the cut at the end of Kilmaine Road. So they drive the airboat there. And this airboat is big. We're talking a massive fan, and we have 2 fins to control this airboat. It's 16 feet. This is Mr. Carr's second airboat. The first airboat, fortunately, Mr. Carr was trying to operate the airboat, and he was trying to turn it in a way, and ended up sinking.
He sunk his first airboat.
So what happens that day? He shows up to the cut, and he sees Ken Leszewski, Kenny Leszewski, and Craig Brown. And Mr. Carr is a friendly guy. So what did he say? How we doing today, fellas? Mr. Gremmel, doing all right. What about you two? They don't respond. They do not like Mr. Carr. They despise Mr. Carr for what happened all these years ago.
Because he's been fishing in protected waters, so to speak. Let me just say, this is hard to hear. This is a story that is absolutely nuts. This is crazy. Mr. Carr is the guy with the airboat. He's the one in the foreground that we see right there. He apparently had an affair with Kenneth Jr., Kenneth Jr.'s wife, I should say. Sorry, let me finish the whole sentence there. Was dropping anchor in someone else's harbor, so to speak, as a boater, in boater terminology. And now wants to bury the hatchet and just move on because he's got a fiance and all now. So I guess all is good for him. Anyway, the two Kenneths do not want to move on. They don't like Mr. Carr at all. So the Kenneths, the father and son, and Craig, the friend, go out ice fishing on the cut, as they call it. So they're out on the cut. It's private property. They have permission to be there. And Tanner Cody Carr shows up in his second airboat. His first one he sunk trying to maneuver a turn in a wave and caught it wrong, and it's still probably at the bottom of the lake somewhere. But he shows up in his second airboat and is now asking about how the fishing's going. Craig responds, who has no history with Tanner, "Hey, it's great, it's fine." And then he's like, "Yeah, what about you guys? What are you catching?" This is where the two Kenneths, would rather not speak to Tanner because of, I don't know, his dallying with Kenneth's wife.
It's not fair. So an argument breaks out. And eventually, Mr. Carr decides, "I'm out of here. We're out of here. What's over at Kendall? Ready?" He starts up the airboat. Now, because the ice was thin, and because this airboat was on ice, there's only one way to get back up on ice without crashing the airboat or without causing damage to the airboat. Mr. Carr had this airboat before, he caused damage to it, it's unusable. At the end of this cut, you have a boat launch, you have these giant boulders, limestone, and all it is kind of like a cul-de-sac. There's nowhere else you can go, but you have to turn around. But there's ice. And so what does Mr. Carr do? Or I'm sorry, let me go back. Big Ken, as he's called. "Tanner, why don't you get a grip?" Tanner says, "I'll get a grip." Come on. Starts up the airboat. The only way he can get up on the ice without crashing is to punch. You will see probably pictures of this airboat, okay? To steer an airboat, he spins. It does not have a steering wheel. It has a lever. So you push it forward, it goes in one direction. You pull it back, it goes into another direction. That's how you steer an airboat. So the fan starts up. It's loud. And what does he do? He gives it as much gas as possible to go up on the ice. And what does Kenny Lesesky do? He runs for it because he thinks that Tanner has doubtful. That is not the case. All Mr. Carr was trying to do was leave the situation. Problem is, Kenny Lesesky is right at where the boat launch is. So Mr. Carr can't go forward. He can't go forward. He has no intention on hitting him because he's standing at the airboat. So what does he do? He turns it. Can't hit the limestones there. These big boulders. He doesn't want to hurt Kendall, who's on the airboat. Doesn't want to hurt himself. So what does he do? He keeps going. And he turns and goes between Craig Remmel and Big Ken.
Airboats don't have reverse.
So what does Big Ken do? And Alan Lesesky. He tries to run for it. He has done ice fishing several times. He does not know how to swim. He decided, I'm going to jump from iceberg to iceberg in order to get to shore. Kenny Lesesky is already on shore.
He played Wintertime Frogger.
Craig Remmel has already made it to shore. But what does Big Ken do? Rather than, hey, why don't you just stay there? He decides he's going to run for it. And what happens? Big Ken Leseski, 320 pounds, falls through the ice. He chose to run. He took the advice of his son and he jumped. That was his choice. So Tanner Carr and Kendall, they end up driving back out to the lake. They stop the airboat. Kendall wants to get off. Fair enough. So they drive back to Tanner's house. Tanner lives just on the canal. So Tanner says, I'm going to keep you out of this. That's the type of person Tanner is. He's not the type of person that he wants to harm anyone. He's not the type of person that wants to take people down. He's not the type of person that has the intent to harm others. So what happens? Yeah. Hey, Tanner, mind if we talk to you? Come on in.
I like the reenacting.
So you guys, our way to show up. And you start asking, Tanner, what happened that day? I was fishing. Nothing. Was anyone with you? No. Tanner lies. Why does he lie? He lies because he's trying to keep him honest. Because that's the type of person Tanner Carr is. He doesn't want anything bad to happen. However, what you're also going to see, though, is Tanner Carr is passionate. Because this has been going on for 10 years. At one point, you will see Tanner Carr say, let it go. Just let it go. All I want to do is be left alone. That's all he wants.
You messed with his wife, though.
That's all he wants.
That's tough for you.
But on the flip side, you'll probably see a video of Deputy Barwig and Sergeant Dice show up to the Leseski household. And he starts interviewing. Both of them start interviewing. What happened?
We have one in the works. Red Pen's working on it right now.
Very first thing that you hear Mr. Leseski say, Mr. Kenny Leseski, went around with my wife. Then they go into the garage to start talking. That's where you hear the word. They're worthless. There's nothing better to do. He's on disability, so he's living off of us, the taxpayers. He's completely worthless. Has screwed up dozens of marriages. That's what Penguin says. Thanks to Tanner Carr. So then, Sergeant Dice is asking questions about whether Big Ken was injured. What does he say? Oh, no, that ain't nothing. Because that's what it was. Nothing. He had a little cut on his hands. He ends up going back to work. There's nothing wrong. You see, the big picture in this is
Red Pen, can I share this?
it's not really about the airport. It's not about the incident. You had two best friends. Used to do everything. Lived in Seedling, did everything. Hunting, fishing. Again, Carr was in, anyone was asking what? And that reached trust. So kind of taken care of. So, one point, you'll see Sergeant Dice. As you have his full name. Do you have Tanner Carr's full name?
There's our thumbnail link, courtesy of Red Pen.
He lights right up. Tanner Cody Carr. I got it. Prosecution mentions all these elements that they have to meet. Again, beyond a reasonable doubt, they have to meet every single one of these elements. It had 3 counts of assault with intent to do great bodily harm. With intent. With intent. Tanner Carr was not intending to hurt anyone. He was trying to leave because this has gone on for years and it hasn't been let go. So what does he do? Starts up the airboat, leaves. And in fact, as soon as Tanner Carr gets back home, what does he do? Because he cares? Turn on the EMS kit.
He calls Kenny's wife. No.
No one wanted the ambulance to show up. No one was taken to the hospital. The big offense here is the fact that Big Ken and Little Kenny and Craig, well, he didn't even look back. He's driving an airboat. He's trying to get out of the situation. That does not mean that he does not care. Now, the prosecution is arguing, well, he was careless. No, he was careful. He was trying to prevent things from being a lot worse than what they were. Everyone is alive. Now, one of the counts too is felonious operation of a vessel. There's that willful, wanton disregard of human life. So if I wanted to kill someone, that is my mindset. I don't care about human life. That is not Tanner Carr. He lied to the officer because he's trying to protect and handle his neighbor. He checks on the EMS to make sure everyone's okay. He had zero intention on causing any harm to anyone. It is unfortunate that Mr. Leseski, Big Ken, fell through the ice. Yes, but it was his choice to jump one iceberg to another. All Mr. Carr was trying to do was leave. On top of that, the government has decided, well, you know, he was interfering with fishing. Well, part of the interfering with fishing or sports fishing is taking someone's fish. I'm going to take the bucket of fish.
Counsel, excuse me, I'm sorry. This is turning into a closing argument as opposed to open statement, and so I object. It's not laying out what he's going to be presenting as evidence, if any evidence. Mr. Connor.
Your Honor, I'm just laying out the facts and theory of the case. That's all I'm doing.
He didn't steal his bucket of
Very well,
fish.
the objection is noted for the record, but this has, your opening is presuming evidence that will be presented during the course of the trial, from what you stated. So, just caution. All right, continue.
So, as I was stating, prosecution is trying to state that there's an interference with fishing. And with that statute, you also interfere with maybe a school of fish. You're trying to change the behavior. That never happened either. All Mr. Carr was trying to do, and I will keep giving that, there's no intent. He's trying to leave. Overall, this was the breach of trust that has come to a head. That is why we were here today. At the end of this trial, and after all the testimony you're going to be hearing today,
the breach of trust
you're
came
going
to
to
a
take
head.
all that into consideration. Mr. Carr's going to testify. We're going to have several. But in the end, Mr. Carr is not guilty of any of these things. That's what I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask that each one of those 6 counts provide that Mr. Carr is not guilty. At your time, I hope you all enjoyed your lunch.
I hope you all enjoyed your
Look
lunch.
forward to this to be resolved. Mr. Carr walks out not guilty as he is. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Walsh, your first witness.
Defense has done their job. Said that you should find him not guilty because he is. The other side's going to say he's a womanizer. He's ruined dozens of marriages and wrecked handfuls of boats, I guess. But apparently, according to the defense, he was just trying to leave. He just wanted to get a fish report, check in, not really dropping anchor there, just saying, hey, how's it going, and then leaving.
Mr. Lisetsky, would you please step up to the witness stand just my right, please?
I'm not sure if this is junior or
For
senior.
having seen that, would you please raise your right?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I'm going to go with senior.
Please be seated. Once you're seated, only one thing I require you to speak loudly and clearly for everyone to hear. Okay. Once you may proceed. Thank you, ma'am.
Please let us at least have good audio from the witness. These windows are depressing. Little tiny windows there.
State your name, please, and spell your last name.
Kenneth Jason Lisetsky, Lascesky.
Jay's junior, right?
So where do you live at? And on what street?
Ross Drive, 2439 Ross Drive.
Where's that located at as far as in relation to Seedling?
It's the first road north of Seedling, 9 Kilmanor Road. Ross Drive is just to the north off of Kilmanor.
And Kilmanor Road, as far as when it's, you go down Kilmanor Road towards your house, what do you run into, if anything?
Canals and the Saginaw Bay.
Where your head's directly to the water.
Correct.
Now, is there a canal that's near you where you live at?
Yes, there's actually 3 of them.
Okay. And in terms of those 3, do they have names or just locations?
Just located.
Can I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Show us been marked as proposed exhibit 3. Seen that before, sir. Is that, what is that?
Overview look of the end of Kilmanor Road and my residence.
Is that an accurate representation of that area?
Yes.
I move for the admission of proposed 3, Your Honor.
Objection. Okay, People's 3's in it.
Read my Your Honor.
We're back to the Google Earth map. You can see multiple canals here. I think I'm covering up some of the bay, maybe. The water's out there.
And this is actually labeled Kilmanor Road. Is that the road you're talking about here?
Correct.
And then this is going down to the water?
Correct.
Okay. And you said you're on Ross Drive?
That is correct.
So that's this road right here?
Yes.
And I do see some buildings here. What are those?
The buildings are my sheds, and then the corner of that road where it turns to Sunnyside Drive, that's my house right there.
Okay. How far is it from your house down to get to the Kilmenny Road cut?
It's roughly a half mile.
Now, you mentioned 3 cuts. Is this one of the cuts you're talking about there at the end of the road?
Correct.
And where would a second one be?
Right off the end of Sunnyside Drive there.
Okay, Sunnyside Drive, and that's just right here?
Sunnyside Drive splits the 2 cuts.
Okay, so there's actually one here and...
Correct.
Okay. And those are the 3 you're talking about?
Yes, it is.
So there are houses on both sides of Sunnyside.
Go fishing on the, on any of the cuts?
I have fished all 3 of them.
They're cuts.
Include ice fishing? Ice fishing?
Correct.
How would you describe the cut at the end of
Kilmanor Road?
That cut was dredged in the past few years, I would say, and it's deeper than the other two, so the fish come in there better.
And back on February 23rd of this year, before I get there, is this cut in where you live at in Huron County?
Yes, it is.
Now, back on the 23rd, in the morning hours, February 23rd, what were you doing?
I was fishing on the cut on the end of Kilmanor Road.
And were you there with anybody else?
My father.
What's your father's name?
Oh, it is also Campbell Session.
Has a different middle name?
Correct.
So it's not senior and junior, but do you have nicknames that the two of you have?
Big Kenny and Little Kenny.
Who's who?
My dad's Big Kenny and Little Kenny.
Now, do you know the defendant, Leonard Carr?
I do.
For how long?
We grew up together, so I would say 30 plus years.
Was he the best man at the wedding?
Usually you were friends?
Yes.
Are you still friends?
No.
You mentioned on the 23rd you were fishing with your dad?
Yes.
How did that come about?
He contacted me and we had fish there prior, a few days before that, and caught fish and he wanted to go fishing that day.
When did that take place as far as that? You said he contacted you. When did that take place?
The night before we talked about it, I told him I wasn't going fishing, and then he came to my house that morning and wanted me to go with him, and my mom was coming out to watch my daughter, and I went out there a little bit later than he was already out there.
So he gets out there, leaves you as far as you get out to the cut, and then you join him out there.
Correct.
Well, what time of day do you think it was then?
This is the shoreline right along here.
8:30 probably.
So I'm floating
What
over
was the weather
water.
like?
It was a nice day.
This is the cut where they were
sunny,
fishing.
Probably low 30s, low mid 30s maybe that day.
Now, what was the condition of the cut itself?
It was good ice.
When you say good ice, what do you mean by that?
There was probably 4 to 6 inches of solid ice there yet.
So did you go out on with the ice?
Correct.
Any concerns or that you saw or noted?
Not at all.
And you saw your dad on the ice?
Correct.
You see him having concerns or any issues?
No, we were, like I said, we fished there a couple days prior and ice was fine.
4 to 6 inches, that's good ice.
So you're there with your dad, what happens then?
We started catching some fish and I called one of my buddies to let him know we were doing good fishing to come down and join us.
And did he?
He did.
Who was that?
Great girl.
When he got there, about how long had you been up there already, do you think, approximately?
Hour maybe.
So he gets there, and what's going on then?
We're all fishing, catching a few fish and
spending time with each other.
Yeah, spending time enjoying each other's company.
Now, at some point in time, did you hear something that caught your attention?
Yes.
What was that?
We heard an airboat coming from in the distance, or driving on the ice from in the distance.
Wasn't, at that point in time, it wasn't, you couldn't see it.
Correct.
You heard it, you said in the distance. Did you continue to hear it, or what happened then?
Yeah, I mean, we heard it coming closer over time, and then we actually seen the boat turn the corner in the end of the cut where we were fishing.
And when it comes into the cut, did you see what's happening with the cut at that point in time?
The boat was coming in fairly slow, and the ice was breaking the entire way into the cut.
Could you see how many people were on the airboat?
2.
About how close did it get to where you were at?
I would say roughly 40 to 60 yards away from us.
And what did the airboat do then?
He shut the motor off.
And you said he, did you recognize who that was?
I did at that point.
And who was it?
And
The defendant?
correct.
Your Honor,
He was the driver of the boat.
that's the record reflect he's indicated the defendant. Record shall reflect the same. You said he was driving the boat?
Correct.
They said he shuts the boat down.
Yes.
Everything got quiet.
Yes.
What happened then?
We all just kept fishing and he started going off in a rant, yelling at us. I don't know, maybe, I don't know the time frame on how long he was yelling, but it seemed to me like he's kept escalating his own argument. And then Craig actually said something to him. Craig said, we're just doing a little fishing or something along those lines.
So let me stop you there. So when he started off, initially it was right off the bat to, you said a rant as far as that, or was there any conversation initially before that?
No.
It was right into the.
Correct.
Okay. And at some point then said, Craig said something.
Yes.
Along the lines, we're just fishing.
If I remember right, Tanner said, how you guys doing today, or something along those lines, and Craig said, good, just doing hearsay.
Sustained. Yeah, I might respond. Present sense impression at that time based on the question that was raised by the defendant. So the defendant's question is not hearsay, it's part of your opponent. That part regarding the defendant, I agree. But you're bringing present sense impression. For Craig, credible, yes. Response, Mr. Craig.
Your Honor, at this time,
please stand when you address
Your Honor.
Will you stand when you address the court?
There's a statement made by the declarant in this case. Mr. Graham was testifying, or I'm sorry, Mr. Lisetsky is testifying of what Mr. Gremmel was saying at the time. I believe if this is the case, that Mr. Gremmel is going to be testifying against Mr. Carr, that his testimony should speak for itself rather than Mr. Lisetsky testifying on behalf or stating what Mr. Gremmel is going to say.
Under 8031, the statement describing or explaining an event or condition made while or immediately after the declarant received it. The objection is overruled. It is not hearsay. It's a hearsay exception under 8031. So the statement that was just referenced by Mr. Lisetsky is admissible. It's not hearsay. It's an exception to the hearsay rule.
The judge reversed his
decision. The court reverses its ruling relative to the hearsay objection pertaining to that last statement. Thank you. So you heard the defendant say something along the lines of how's it going, or what you doing, or how's it fishing, or what was it you heard?
It was, how are you doing today, fellas? I do believe this is the statement.
Okay. And then you heard Mr. Gremmel respond to that particular question.
Correct.
And when you heard him say what?
Catching a few fish, doing pretty good.
When was that exchange in relation to what you called the argument of the rant?
That was like the first words he said when he pulled up.
Okay, so it started off that way initially.
Correct.
Okay. And so then Mr. Gremmel responds. What happens then?
He went off in his rant again, and I was trying not to even pay attention to him because I don't want to associate myself with him anymore. And
again, and you said he went off his rant again. So had it already started already at that point in time?
That was after Mr. Gremmel responded. Yeah.
Okay. And then at that point, you said he went off his rant.
Correct.
You're not responding?
No.
How about your dad at that point? Is he saying anything? Without saying what? Was he saying anything?
I don't think he did at that point.
Okay. What's going on then at that point then?
Then Mr. Carr directed himself towards me and said, what, you don't want to talk to me? And I do believe this when my father turned and looked at him and said, Tanner, get a grip.
And had you responded at all during this time to the defendant?
I don't recall. I don't recall responding.
So you heard your father make that statement. What happened then?
When my dad said that, Tanner says, I'll get a grip right now and fire the airboat up.
What happened then?
appeared to go full throttle, and I grabbed my stuff and took off running because my opinion was he was coming after me.
Did it look like that as far as where the airboat was headed?
It did until I did it. I mean, then I took off and I was running for my life.
You said running for your life. Why do you think that?
Because if I was slipped or anything, I do, in my opinion, he would have ran me over.
Did you say anything when that happened, when the airboat starts up and it starts moving towards you?
When I lifted my fishing poles and stuff and took off running, I yelled, "Get off the ice, guys."
Did you see how they responded at that moment?
At that moment, I didn't, because I was running for my life.
Where were you headed towards?
There's a boat launch there at the end of that canal. And when I took off running for that, I was trying to get up on top of the stone. There's some big stones there because I knew that boat wasn't going to find them stones to get me.
When did you make it to the shore?
I did.
Did you hear the airboat in terms of how close or not close it was to you?
It was very close behind me. I didn't turn to look because I was trying to get away from the situation. And when I did stop and turn around, he was within feet of me when I got to a safe spot.
And that was on the shore then at that point?
Correct.
And so when you turned around, you could see him and the airboat at that point in time?
Correct.
Did you see anything else happening?
When I turned around and looked, my father was going through the ice ready, and I watched that in slow motion, and that was my main concern, was to try and save him. When that boat took off with that kind of force, and I don't remember 100%, but when I seen it, and I heard Tanner say something, and he flipped us off and gave us a gesture.
And you said you heard him say something. Could you make it out what you thought it was?
I thought he said, "Fuck you, assholes."
And that's when you said they also flipped you off, right?
Correct. And then he drove up the cut, and the boat drifted off to the same distance that it sounded like it came from. And I didn't pay attention to the boat after that point. I was more concerned about trying to get my father out of the water.
When the defendant, as he said, flipped you off, was that still within the basic end of the cut?
Correct. He turned to mine. It looked like he turned around, seen my dad in the water, said, "Fuck you, assholes." And I was like,
Objection calls for speculation.
He's indicated what he's describing, what he looked like to him as far as what he looked back at his father. That's a description, and I don't believe that's calling for speculation.
Your Honor, he testified that he ran towards the bull ram. His back was to his father. He didn't see anything.
He then testified, Your Honor, that he turned around and saw the defendant, and that's when he saw him flipping the finger off. And then that's when he said, "That's it at that point."
Objection's overruled.
The FU.
So you saw him look over towards your father at that point in time.
Correct.
And your father was already in the water?
Correct.
Did he stop and come back or help?
No.
You mentioned, if I heard you correctly along the lines of that when you started to run, you had hold of some stuff?
I had my poles in one hand and my bucket in the other.
So you're running with those in your hands as well?
Correct.
You get to the shore, you turn around, you see what you've already talked about. The airboat's leaving, what do you do at that point in time?
I watched Craig jump from small iceberg to iceberg because the entire top was broke at that point. He made it to the shore somehow, and then we tried to rescue my dad out of the water. The only thing above the water at that point was my dad's arms and head.
Now, so when you look back at that point initially, Mr. Gremmel was still on the ice?
Correct.
And you saw him make it to shore?
Correct. I don't think he completely made it to shore. He made it to the chunk of ice that was between the broken stuff and where we were in the middle.
And when you say he, we're talking about Mr. Gremmel?
Mr. Gremmel, yes.
Okay.
This is what's in the corner.
But he finally gets to shore, or not?
Well, he got to that chunk of ice that was stable enough to stand on.
Okay. And what did he do then if you saw him?
He ended up grabbing my dad's ice spud that he had when he went through the ice. Somehow they made it to that big chunk of ice, and then we attempted to get him out of the water.
And you used the phrase there, ice spud. What's an ice spud?
Metal handled utensil that you make your holes with to go fishing.
And that's what you and your father and the criminal have been using that day to go fishing.
Right.
So he had this ice spud. What do you do with that, or what does Mr. Gremmel do with it?
He uses it to try and get ice stabilized where my dad's holding on to one piece and trying to give the spud to my dad to try and pull him out of the water.
Was he successful?
No.
What did you do?
I was there helping him do everything I could at the same point to try and get my father out of the water.
And in terms of what you're trying to do there, what does that entail?
And we were trying to lift him out, we were trying to pull him out, we were trying to do anything in our power to get him out of it. And we weren't able to do that on our own.
The person in the water has to kick their legs super vigorously, which is hard to do in full winter gear.
What happened
It's
then?
waterlogged.
At that point, Greg looked at me and he said, Kenny, you have to go get a roll if you want him out of here.
What did you do?
I said, Greg, I can't beat my father here. And he said, you have to. If you don't go, he's not coming out of here.
Did you go? Safe to say you ran?
I ran, yes.
Where are you running towards at that point in time?
I was running to my residence to go in my shed and get a roll that I felt was going to be long enough and strong enough to get him out of the water. On the way back to my house, I ran across an individual on the road who I stopped and asked him if he had a rope, a chain, anything to help try and get my dad out of the water. He's in the water down there at the end of the road. And he said, yes, I have something. You might want to still get a rope. And I finished going in my house, I got a rope. By the time I got back down there, my dad, or Trey, and the other gentleman had this tow strap around my dad's arms, and they still were unsuccessful at getting him out of there. When I got back there, I grabbed a hold of the strap and we got him up.
Took 3 people to pull him out.
You go back to your house,
Correct.
get back to where they're at, and they're doing everything they can to try to get your dad out.
Yes.
At that point, still not successful.
Correct.
And then once you joined in, the 3 of you were able to.
Yes, between the 3 of us, we had enough strength to get him out of there.
How long do you think it was from the time when you saw your father first in the water to when you finally got him out?
I'd say an estimate of 20, 25 minutes.
Now, how was your father responding while he was in the water at that point?
Not good. I seen my father, he's a loud-spoken individual. And when I told him, I kept saying, I said, Dad, you have to kick your legs. And he looked up at me and said, hey, really quietly. And he wasn't, when we got him out of the water, he couldn't move. We got him up on his feet and got him up to my side-by-side and drove him to my garage and got him in the heated garage and he was.
Now, as far as the side-by-side, how did that get there?
I drove that back down when I went to go get the rope.
You walked her initially to the very beginning of the morning?
Right.
Had to run back?
That was close.
You testified to get the rope.
Right.
And then to come back, and you had the side-by-side.
Right.
How far could you take that side-by-side to?
Like 3/4 of the distance.
Why is that?
Because there's a metal lock gate on that property to get to that now.
And
which I had permission to be on that property. I had to go through the gate, but I didn't want to spend any seconds more than I had to get down there and help get them all.
And you said you had permission to do that. When you were fishing that morning,
right?
You were doing that lawfully?
Yes.
To get a conviction on the disrupting fishing, someone's going to have to give a report on how the fishing got worse after this.
Get them back to your place.
Someone's going to have to testify how they were not able to continue fishing because
Where
of the
initially did you
accident.
take your father to at that point in time when you got him back?
When I was running to my shed, I called another friend of mine for help to try and get him out, to get him there. And after we got him out, he was at my side-by-side when we got my dad out, and he helped get us back to the side-by-side. And him and one of his friends took my dad back to my garage and got him warmed up. And at that point, that's when I made the phone call to 911.
When you made the call, where were you at that point in time?
At the end of the canal.
And when you say the end of the canal, you were at the gate, or as you actually in near where the landing's at?
I would have been standing at the landing there at where the boat launch is.
His dad was in the water for 10 to 15 minutes. After 2 minutes, you're not able to help in your own rescue. That's how quickly your body shuts down and is not able to function in that temperature. He said, he said he kept trying to say, "Dad, I need to keep your legs so you can't get out." He said, "I can't."
5, 6, 7, and 8. You can look at those. In general, what are they?
There's the end of the canal where I was fishing, where the boat drove around us and drove the ice.
Yeah. And those are pictures, obviously, that were taken of that area.
Correct.
And these pictures here, are they ones that you took or someone else took?
And these are the ones the sheriff's department took.
Okay. But as far as those pictures, do they accurately reflect what you saw there while you were there after the boat went through?
Yes.
Now it's time to move for the mission of 4 through 8. After you've had the opportunity.
Witness giving a side eye to the defendant there. Let's see if we can see these pictures here. There's the map. We don't need that anymore. We've seen plenty of the map. This all happened in about a half-mile radius.
Objections, Your Honor. I think 4 through 8 argument. It's People's fault. And then, yeah, close again, Your Honor. Yes, sir. Showing 12, proposed exhibits 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16.
He hasn't published the pictures yet.
These are also pictures of the cut. That's true?
Right.
And who took these pictures?
You believe I did.
And when did you take those?
Later on that evening.
The same day?
Right.
And do they accurately reflect what you saw when you took those pictures?
Yes.
And was the cut still in the same condition when you saw those pictures that was earlier that day?
Bless you, whoever's coughing or sneezing incessantly.
The Senator, I move the admission of 12 through 16.
Now defense is looking at the pictures to see if he objects to any of the pictures. I think foundation has been laid for these. So unless they contain something that's overly prejudicial or possibly cumulative, they're coming in.
Objections.
I'm sorry, Council.
No objections, Your Honor.
Thank you. Equals 12 through 16 argument. Now, Mr. Lesesky, looking at exhibit number 7.
All right, here's the cut.
And it's a picture, obviously, taken from the shore. Is that true?
Correct.
What are we looking at in the picture?
I do believe where I'm standing would be on the edge of the boat launch. And where I ran up was by that branch or down tree that's there on the canal.
And so this is the branch you're talking about right here?
Correct.
This picture is called Ice. The file name is Ice.
This is exhibit number 8. That's the branch again, a closer up of it?
Yes.
And we can see in this picture chunks of ice.
Right.
Was that like that when you first got there that morning?
No.
It was solid?
Yes.
So that's where the ice boat went through?
Right.
The ice boat went all the way down to the boat ramp, chased him to the boat ramp? Okay, that's not just turning around the ice, the airboat. That was a pursuit.
There we go. Look at exhibit 6.
Oh,
what are we looking at here, sir?
This gives me the chills.
That is where the boat went through where my father was in the water.
Okay.
That is not good ice. All those.
And this is the broken
spots.
ice you were talking about?
Correct.
And again, that wasn't there when you first got there.
Correct.
And whereabouts here did your father go through?
Right where that first big white chunk is.
Right here?
To your right.
To my right.
Up a little bit higher.
Right in the middle of the
To
picture.
the left, a little bit, right there. That's where he initially went in, and then he was trying to get to the edge. Or that's where he started going down, and he ended up fully in the water by the other edge, by that other big jump.
To this way then.
Correct.
And I see a bucket and a tackle out here. Whose was that?
That was the fishing gear that got left there by Craig. The tackle box and the bucket is his. The ice scooper and the gloves out a little bit further are mine. Where I did not have time to pick them up. When I took off running, I just ran.
And that's the scooper you're talking about, the gloves here.
Correct. And then later on that night, when I took them pictures, is when I went back, we were going to try and recover the items, and we weren't able to because the whole thing was broken.
Exhibit 5. What are we looking at here, sir?
That was my father's bucket, and I think that's the ice flood behind it. When he went through the water, he needed his hands and let that stuff go, and that went to the hard chunk of ice.
And then exhibit 4. We're looking down the cut.
Yes.
And again, this was the bucket you were talking about. That was Mr. Reynolds' bucket here, as well as the tackle.
Correct.
And this is the tree you were talking about that you ran towards,
Correct.
or the branch.
Wow. He was breaking up the ice and he circled the guys. He literally broke up the ice all around them. All those dark holes in the ice.
12.
It's not good ice.
We're looking down the cut again. This is a little farther on shore.
Correct.
You've been talking about some rocks. Are these the rocks you've been talking about?
Yes, it is.
And that's what you were headed towards?
That's where I was running to try and get behind them because I knew the boat wasn't going to be able to climb them. In my head while I was running.
Exhibit 13. straight down the canal, but again, you can see that more of the rocks, there's a little bit left.
Correct.
And exhibit 14, a little bit more left, still had the rocks there, and we can see now your father's bucket.
Yes.
And again, this is what you're talking about, where the airboat broke through the ice.
Yes.
In here, about initially when Mr. Tanner stopped the airboat, he first gets there and stops. About where was he at that point? In relation to the picture, if you can see.
I would say that last small tree on the left-hand side, he was 30 yards probably out towards the bay.
So here, but 30 yards beyond that.
Correct.
So this area here, and I'm making a fairly large circle, but that basic area a little farther out.
Yes.
And exhibit 15 shows a little bit of the landing as well as then looking down the cut.
Correct.
And then 16 is more focused on the landing. It also shows the tree you were talking about.
Yes.
And I say keep saying tree, but a large branch.
Correct.
So this is the landing here?
Yes.
Landing area. And the rocks would be over here then?
Yes.
And again, that's broken ice we're talking about here for the airboat.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to pause for just a second. This is something you need to understand. Ice fishermen oftentimes have trouble getting out onto the ice because the water level changes, and so the edges will be soft, but the middle is safe. And I know this, most of you would be like, "No, that sounds awful." But yes, if you can jump out to the ice, if you're good. That branch that's there was probably put to get over the soft edges so they could sort of walk along the branch and get out to the good ice. The problem with that is branches and rocks or whatever else you put out there, boards, they soak up sunlight a lot better than ice does because they're darker, and they end up being a little warmer than the ice, and they also melt the edges. So you wouldn't want to leave them out there or else it causes a problem, but they are often used, boards, branches, things like that, to get out on the ice. That branch melted the ice, and the boat came all the way into that branch. That was just nuts.
And you went to, you mentioned those, some of these, like this picture here, you took that picture. Did you take any pictures of any other cuts?
Yes.
When was that?
The following morning.
And why was that?
To prove that none of the other cuts were broken from an airboat.
Yeah, approach your honor. You went. They're showing you what the mark is. $17, $18, $19, $20, $21, $22, $23. These are all some of the pictures that you took of other cuts in the area?
Correct. I went from Geiger Road to Stephen.
Exactly. I say looking over the cuts.
Correct.
And took pictures of many of those cuts.
Yes.
Do these accurately reflect what you saw when you were there examining the cuts?
Yes.
And the back of those pictures, there's some handwriting on those?
Yes.
Whose handwriting is that?
That would be my wife's.
And that's to identify which cut those are on?
Correct. When we were going through the pictures, she was labeling that.
These are pictures you took?
Correct.
Now this time I move to addition to 17 through 23.
So these, I'm not sure if they're going to be a relevance objection here, but the next pictures we're going to see are pictures of the other cuts that they were not fishing on, and the airboat did not break up, to show the ice that is not broken. And these were pictures taken by the witness himself the following morning to show how the ice looked on the other cuts. Yeah, the long-standing dispute here that caused this feud was the defendant hooking up with the witness's wife.
People 17 through 23, pardon me. And then the cuts that you looked at and went to and took pictures of, did any of them have damage?
No. There was actually, you can see, I guess I don't know if it's in that picture, but there was some people fishing on the other cuts.
On the ice?
Yeah.
A fire could melt the ice and the fire would go out.
You give me a question on it? Yes, sir.
But a camp stove
25.
just melts the
Is that
surface.
familiar with, you see the picture there, sir?
Yes.
What is it?
It appears to be the airboat that attempted to run me over.
Okay, we're going to see the airboat here in just a second. Defense gets to look over the picture. No objections. I want to see if this is like a blinged out airboat. Or
What time was it you think when you called the police?
Say 10 o'clock-ish.
Well, does everything happened before then? Right. You called what time it was about when you got out there?
8:30.
It's not showing us the picture. The prior beef was that the defendant parked his ship in the witness's slip, so to speak. He was fishing in prohibited waters. Dropped anchor in another man's harbor. He's had an affair with the witness's wife.
Before we begin cross-examination, we're going to just take a very short recess. We'll reconvene momentarily, no more than 10 minutes. Members of the jury, I have to remind you, you are not to discuss any aspects of the case. You are not to look up any aspects regarding the case. You're not to read, listen to, or watch any news reports. Under the law, the evidence you consider to decide the case must meet certain standards. For example, witnesses must be able to swear to tell the truth. Lawyers must
switch over to the new
cross-examine them. Because news reports do not have to meet those standards. They can give you incorrect or misleading information that might unfairly favor one side. So be fair to both sides. Please follow that instruction. You can talk about sports. You can talk about how the Lions sweep by on Thursday. Do whatever you want, but don't talk about the case. We'll reconvene momentarily. All right.
So they take a brief break, and here we come back. Oh, wait. That was part one. Where's part two? Josh, please tell me. Oh, there's part two. Okay, we've got it.
Mr. Dremel, you testified that you know
wait.
Mr. Carr, correct?
We got to go back. Here we go. Now we're back. This is totally a South Park episode. Welcome to Small Towns in Friesen, Michigan. People find ways to warm up, says M3. So this is happening live, but we are a little bit behind. So try to catch up. Let me clarify. They were not I thought they were both on airboats, but Big Kenny and Little Kenny, father and son, and Craig were fishing together. They walked out onto the ice. They used an auger and a spud bar to drill holes and chip holes into the ice to ice fish on ice that was about 4 inches thick. While they were fishing, Tanner Carr, Mr. Carr, comes up in his boat. The irony there is funny. But he comes up in his boat, says, hey, how's the fishing? Craig says, oh, it's good, caught a couple, whatever. And he's like, what about you guys? And the other two, Big Kenny, Little Kenny, they don't like Mr. Carr because Mr. Carr slept with Little Kenny's wife. And so they don't say anything. And he's like, what? You're not going to talk to me, whatever? And Big Kenny says, get a grip, Tanner. He's like, I'll get a grip. And he grabs the throttle and chases down Little Kenny, allegedly, with the airboat, breaking the ice as he goes. Little Kenny runs and makes it all the way to the boat ramp at the end of the,
Court recalls the matter of People versus Carr. We are in beginning of cross-examination. Mr. Lisowski, would you please step back up to the witness stand just to remind you are still under oath. Can I have counsel approach, please?
While they approach, let me finish this. Craig, the friend, managed to get off the ice. Big Kenny tries to jump from broken chunk to broken chunk like they do in the movies, finds out that because he's 320 pounds and the ice is actually not that buoyant, that it didn't work, and he ends up in the drink. Craig then and Little Kenny, after the airboat takes off and leaves and giving the old FU and you're number one in my book, then they're trying to rescue the dad. They can't get him out. Little Kenny runs to go get a rope from his shed.
Cross-examination. Yes, Your Honor.
Finds somebody else, gets help, and they're able to all three get him out.
Mr. Lisowski, you and Mr. Carr.
Okay.
You grew up together.
Okay.
You used to fish together.
Okay.
You used to hunt together.
Okay.
He was in your wedding.
Yes.
Was he the best man?
You guys lived in the same county.
Okay.
You even lived in the season.
Yes.
You live down the street from Mr. Carr.
For a short period.
You still drive past his house every day.
I wouldn't say every day.
Or you drive past his house often.
Okay.
You slow down every once in a while, correct?
Not intentionally.
And that friendship was breached when Mr. Carr had an affair with your wife.
Okay.
And that probably made you upset.
Yes.
Still makes you upset to this day.
No. Me and my wife are over it.
But at one time, you and your wife weren't over it, correct?
Not really.
You had to work through that.
Okay.
And yet you never buried the hatchet with Mr. Carr, correct? And if you were at the preliminary examination, correct?
Yes.
And at one point, you remember me asking, you've forgiven Mr. Carr, right? At one point, I did say, you've forgiven Mr. Carr. Okay. And you said, I tried. Correct?
I don't recall.
Do I need to refresh your memory?
I don't recall that statement, so.
Your Honor, if I may approach.
Yes, you may.
He's going to refresh his memory with the statement saying he tried to forgive the defendant. The judge just moved the clock on his desk so that we can all see how much time this is taking. Mr. Carr, I'm not sure how apologetic he was. It was more like he was like the Lion King. Whatever, it's in the past. Get over it. I'm moving on. You should move on. Court reporter has a great hairstyle. She's rocking it. Is that what you call a beehive, do? What's
Mr. Lisowski, I am showing you what was previously the preliminary examination transcripts. Okay. Now, what I'm presenting you is that transcript. Okay. And at that time, I asked you.
Counsel, if you have the page, please.
Oh, yes. That is page 21, line 17 through 20.
Thank you. Counsel, you stated you wish to refresh his recollection.
Yes, that is correct.
All right, if you just want to show him certain aspects of that, let him read that to himself.
Yes.
See what his response is. See if this refreshes his recollection.
Is it your testimony today that you've let it go?
Yes, I just don't talk to him anymore. Yes, you could say that.
Yeah, and you haven't talked to him for about 10 years, correct?
No.
How many years has it been?
Probably 6.
And Mr. Carr has attempted to have contact with you, correct? He's tried to bury the hatchet with you. You don't like Mr. Carr, do you?
Not that I don't like him. I don't like what happened.
I want to go back to February 23rd, 2024. You recall that day, correct?
Correct.
You were ice fishing that day.
Yes.
And you and your dad were ice fishing that day.
Yes.
And also Mr. Gremmel was ice fishing that day.
Yes, you joined us a little later.
Okay.
Side eye at the defendant.
And so at some point, Mr. Carr arrives on his airboat.
Correct.
And you know he has an airboat.
I've seen one in his yard.
That's how you've seen it. He has one in his yard.
I didn't know if it was his or not. Because it was in his yard.
But you drive past his house all the time, so you saw it in his yard.
I have seen an airboat in his yard, multiple airboats.
Okay. Now, the day before the 23rd, you went ice fishing that night, correct?
Yes.
And you were familiar with how the ice was.
Yes.
And so in the middle of that cut, or in that area, good ice, right?
Correct.
But around that, a little thinner, correct?
Not really.
But it was a little bit warm that day, right?
Low 30s.
And to get out to the area you were fishing the day before, you used a wood plank, correct?
No.
You just walked out there.
Correct.
Okay. But you were familiar with the ice conditions at that time.
Yes.
And you knew that off in the distance, the ice was thin.
I wasn't in the distance, so I can't answer that.
Well, let me rephrase the question. Off in the distance, there was water, correct?
I didn't go out there.
Okay. But you knew the conditions in the cut were frozen.
And yes.
Okay. So you and Mr. Gremmel and your father just go out there and decide you're going to spend the morning fishing, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Carr comes.
Correct.
On his airboat.
Correct.
And when Mr. Carr comes on his airboat, he says, "How you doing today, fellas?"
Something along those lines, yes.
And you don't respond.
Correct.
And you don't respond because you don't like Mr. Carr.
Correct.
And it's because of what happened all those years ago.
I guess
correct?
That would be
a
true statement.
And so only Mr. Gremmel responds.
Correct.
And he doesn't have a problem with Mr. Carr.
Not at that point.
But your dad also knows what happened all these years ago.
False.
He does not know about.
No.
He does now.
Fair?
Correct.
But that day that the officers showed up, you stated to the officers that he screwed around with your wife.
Correct.
Was that the first time that your dad knew about that?
Yes.
So after Mr. Carr says, "How we doing today, fellas?" you guys get into an argument.
No.
You don't get into an argument.
I don't recall saying anything to Mr. Carr at that moment.
But you don't respond to him because you don't like him.
Correct.
And so after this argument happens, Mr. Carr starts up the airboat.
Afterwards, were said from my father.
And you didn't know who was on the airboat with Mr. Carr?
I did not.
You thought it was his fiance or his girlfriend, correct?
I thought it was a smaller person than him.
Okay.
I did not know who it was.
And do you ever have communication with his fiance, Gabrielle Spicer?
No.
And so you end up deciding, I'm going to run from Mr. Carr.
When he stated that he would get...
It was just a yes or no question. Did you run from Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Because you believe that Mr. Carr was going to drive the airboat towards you.
When he made his statement, yes.
Yes or no question. Just answer the question, yes or no.
Yes.
So you go towards
No objection
the
there?
boat launch, correct?
Yes.
And your back is to Mr. Carr.
Until I reached land.
But you tell your father and Mr. Gremmel to run for it.
I said, all I said was get off the ice, guys.
Because you thought that Mr. Carr was driving that towards you. And that's your belief.
Correct.
That's your belief.
Correct.
And so you turn around and you see Mr. Carr go around, correct?
When he couldn't go any further up the cut, yes, he turned.
Because you knew that there were some limestones there, right?
That's why he turned? I don't know.
You are aware that there are some limestones there.
Yes.
There's no way that he can possibly go forward.
Correct.
So he has to turn around to leave.
He could have turned to the right and went.
Yes or no question?
Your Honor, that wasn't an yes or no question. That was as far as he disagreed with it and giving the answer. So I would object to the counsel arguing with him.
Rephrase the question.
There's only one way to get into that cut, Michael, correct?
Not with that kind of boat, no. That boat could have drove up the boat launch.
You were at the boat launch, though.
I was behind the stones.
You were standing at the boat launch when you ran, correct?
When I got behind the stones,
To
correct?
get to the ice, or to get to land, you ran up the boat launch.
Correct.
Okay. And so Mr. Carr leaves, correct?
Yep.
And that airboat is loud.
Yes.
You agree that it's loud?
Yes.
Loud enough where you can't hear anything.
Depends what anything is being stated as.
But at one point you said that Mr. Carr said, fuck them assholes.
Correct.
But you also stated that it's hard to hear things with an airboat being that loud.
It is hard to hear, but you can hear.
But you're not sure if you could hear, correct?
Well, I can hear.
You're not sure you could hear Mr. Carr say, fuck them assholes while that airboat is going, correct?
Correct. I'm not 100% sure he said that.
Okay.
All right. That you folks
All right. Not 100%. You said that.
Yep.
Okay. So you're unsure about that. Okay. And so Mr. Carr goes off into the distance, right?
Correct.
And you never see him give the finger.
Incorrect.
At one point, did you see him give the finger?
When I got to shore and turned around to look back to see where he was going.
And how far away was he at that point?
25 yards.
And did you physically see this finger?
Yes.
Was he wearing gloves?
When Mr. Carr leaves, you stayed in the video that he never looked back.
He never looked back?
That he never looked back.
I know he looked back when he did that.
How did you know that?
Because I physically seen him.
And you're positive that that was Mr. Carr?
Yes.
That flipped you off?
Yes.
It wasn't the passenger that was on the airboat.
I couldn't even see the passenger in the boat.
And so eventually you tell your dad, and just to go back, you tell Mr. Gremmel and your father to run.
Correct.
And so your father is jumping, trying to get to land.
Correct.
So he tried to listen to you.
I'm sure he went off his own instinct too, trying to get it short and when he's moving.
So he was listening to you jump from iceberg to iceberg.
I never said to jump iceberg.
You told him to run though.
Correct.
Okay.
I said, get off the ice specifically.
And he jumped on the ice.
He was on the ice. There's no way off the ice without stepping on more ice.
Little confrontation here.
You've fallen through the ice before, correct?
Correct.
Sucks.
And you stated that your father can't swim, right? And so he knew the risk of going out on the ice.
Objection, relevance.
Let me rephrase the question. I'll strike the last question.
Okay, question stricken from record, may rephrase it.
You're familiar with that ice then, correct?
I guess.
Because you've fallen through before.
Correct.
And so your dad's in the ice, or he's in the water, and you go and get help, or you try to pull him out. Is that right?
Correct.
And when you try to pull him out, you're not getting him, right?
Correct.
Because he's a big guy.
Correct.
He's 320 pounds.
Yes.
Okay. And eventually you run and try to get someone else to help you, right?
I ran to get rope to try and get him out.
Okay, so you went and got rope first.
On the way to get rope, I ran across another individual on the road that came to help.
And who was that individual?
Thomas Blunt.
Sorry, can I have a lesson?
Thomas Blunt.
ELUNT.
Correct.
Now, just to go back, when Mr. Carr left, he didn't say you're dead, right?
No.
He didn't say I'm coming to get you, right?
No.
He never said any of those things. Correct?
I don't know 100% what he said.
Because you can't hear anything, right?
Well, I can hear the motor.
You can hear the motor, correct?
I read it.
And so eventually you get your father out of the water.
Correct.
And then you call the police.
Correct.
And then Sergeant Dice and Deputy Barwick arrive.
Correct.
And the first thing you say is you screwed around with your wife.
I don't recall the first thing I said.
But you also started talking about how your dad had fallen through the ice.
My dad was intentionally put in the water.
And then you guys go inside your garage, correct?
I was not there right away, no.
But as soon as Deputy Barwick and Sergeant Dice get there, you walk them into the garage, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And when you're in the garage, you're kind of having some small talk with the officers, right?
I could have done.
And you're starting to get a little bit emotional, right?
I was emotional from the time I seen my father in the water.
But then you start making some jokes, right?
I don't recall that.
You start making some jokes by saying, Mr. Carr is going to get this big settlement, right?
I don't recall that.
You know that he was going to get a big settlement.
No.
And then you say, he lives off of us. Correct?
I have stated that before.
You have stated that before.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
That he's never held a full-time job ever in his life.
And so are you envious towards Mr. Carr about that?
No.
Because he keeps bringing it up, correct?
He keeps bringing it up?
You keep bringing it up. You said that before.
No, not that I keep saying it. I have said it.
But you said
it multiple times.
And you said it that day, right?
I don't recall that.
And at one point you also say he screwed up half a dozen marriages.
Objection, relevance, Your Honor.
Just laying foundation, Judge. This is what he said.
Again, foundation for what? That doesn't make it relevant.
Judge, this is a statement that he made himself to Officer Dice. This is just foundation. I'm just laying facts as to what Mr. Leseski said to the officer.
I'm going to allow it over, Judge.
Thank you.
We've gone down
And
to
then
half
you
a dozen.
conclude by saying
marriages.
Mr. Carr is worthless, correct?
I don't recall that.
And then again, you mentioned that he screwed around with your wife.
I could have.
So you're not over the fact that he messed around with your wife.
I am.
You say you are.
But me and my wife are over the fact, other than when he keeps initiating stuff.
You're not over Mr. Carr doing that, correct?
Him initiating stuff? No. Me and my wife are over it. We wouldn't vote our wife.
Now, at one point, were you able to get and retrieve your bucket and fishing pole?
No.
You never retrieved it?
I did not know.
You didn't have anyone else retrieve it?
Another man with an airboat retrieved the fishing equipment, yes.
Okay, so you ended up getting it back.
Okay.
At one point, you heard you were discussing that spot with Sergeant Dice, right?
I met him, yes.
And that was the day of February 23rd, 2024, correct? Because you're making jokes. If you want to go get my stuff, you can go get it, right?
I don't recall saying that.
At one point then, you end up saying, let me rephrase the question. You were asked, do you know the full name of Mr. Carr? Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you say Tanner Cody Carr, correct?
Correct.
And you were smiling about that, right?
I could have been.
Because you're happy about all of this, right?
No. Because I've known him for 30 years of my life.
And you've been at every single one of these hearings, right?
Correct.
And at the preliminary examination, you're cracking jokes, right?
Objection on relevance. How is that relevant, counsel?
Strike the last question.
Objection sustained. Question is stricken. Next question.
And you've had contact with prosecuting attorney's office, correct? Regarding this case?
Yes.
And on multiple phone calls, you've asked Mr. Carr to be charged with attempted murder, correct?
Objection relevance.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Response to the question, or the objection, I'm sorry.
Credibility.
There was no answer.
In this case, Your Honor, I'm just asking what Mr. Leseski said to the prosecuting attorney. I'm just asking if that's indeed what he did. And he is under oath.
And again, you said it's credibility.
Yes. Based off of credibility, if he's telling the truth or not about that.
Yeah, I don't deem that to be relevant. Objection sustained.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Redirect.
Wow, this lawyer was just bashing his way around the courtroom, ignoring the judge's question instead of just withdrawing it after getting it out. Just ringing the bell.
Have any customers? Maybe 30 to 150 yearly.
And where are they located at in relation to where you live?
From Kaysville to Essexville.
You have indicated that you at times have driven by the defendant's house.
Correct.
Are there any of your customers in that area?
I have at least 30 clients within a mile of his house.
You go to those customers on a regular basis?
Correct.
Check the condition of whatever's going on in their lawns and their yards?
Correct. Some of them need mowing multiple times a week.
Lawn care.
Landscape cleanup or etc.
It's a good business. It's good, honest
You
work.
indicated you were.
Uh-oh. No! Guess what just happened? The court ended for the day, and they just deleted their day. Just like that. It's over. They privated their video. Thanks, State of Michigan. Let's see. Yep. There's always a risk of that. Bummer. Well, I guess that ends our day as well. I think we're going to have another day of this tomorrow. I think they're picking up. I don't think they're done with the case today. So we might at least get a summation. I don't know what other witnesses were on there when I scanned through. I didn't see his wife, this current witness's wife on the stand. I don't think that would be relevant, so I don't think you're going to get into that spicy anything. This is a spicy case. We're hearing a couple things. Apparently, the defendant, Mr. Carr, had or has a big settlement coming to him, a big money windfall. That Mr. Carr, at least through his lawyer, is insinuating that the defendant or the witness was jealous of, saying that he's never worked a day in his life or something. He just lives off the taxpayers and drives his airboats around. And yeah, this looks a little weird. It looks. I'm very curious what their 30 years of relationship looked like as friends growing up. Who played what role in that position? But something seems fishy for sure. These were two friends that the friendship ended when one of them slept with the other one's wife. The witness on the stand was the one whose wife slept with the defendant. Then a fishing excursion where the two ran into each other. The defendant in an airboat, the witness out on the ice with his dad and a friend, just standing there on the ice. The airboat came in. They tried. The defendant tried to talk to them. The witness would not address the defendant at all, and now I'm on thin ice. I've got to be careful what I say. Just the one witness so far. Yeah, I think we'll get more again tomorrow. But they pulled it. I've got to get Josh. I've got to get you some equipment so you can download these for me, because you find them and it would be epic. Let me see if I can put that together. Let me see if I can put an order together, Josh. Do you have a spare TV, like a spare screen that you'd be able to watch something on? If I got you an Apple TV and a HyperDeck, I sent you the cables and everything. Josh needs a HyperDeck for Christmas. That's what I'm thinking about. Josh is able to find a lot of these and express some willingness to be able to do this. So maybe I will be getting him one of these bad boys here for Christmas to record some of these. Bummer. Sorry about that, guys. I wish we had the whole thing. All right. With that, we're going to end our day. The couple things. Well, tomorrow I can record this while we watch our other trial. So I'll record the fishing show if you guys remind me. I have to like this channel so I can find it again. Let's see. Let's subscribe. There we go. Okay. Anyway, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go back to the trial that didn't start, that we thought was going to start. First of all, the back up. Let me scratch all that. That was terrible. I apologize.
Scratch all that. Oh, that was terrible. I apologize.
There we go. The trial we thought we were going to watch today was the golf cart DUI wedding crash murder trial. The defendant in that case pled guilty, and there was no trial. She got sentenced, I think, to 25 years. That happened yesterday. Then today, we were going to pick up another trial, which I can't remember for the life of me what it was. I think it's Dontel, is I think the name. Dontel is the coroner. This is in South Carolina. He was a coroner who was accused of murder, and there's a love triangle involved there. that trial was supposed to start today, and that just kept... Thank you, Weather Watch, for that timely reminder. It just kept sort of hanging out there and not starting and not starting. We had the view of the ceiling for a couple hours waiting for it to start. When it finally did start, jury was finally seated, and they were about to start opening statements. They approached one more time. The defendant, after a lengthy sidebar, pled guilty to the last charge, which was basically hiding the body or dumping the body, and pled guilty to that. And then we assume he's going to go forward with the other charges still, and that should start tomorrow. So we'll be back there. It was terrible sound. Both trials today have been very, very bad sound. So we're hoping that sound gets a little better tomorrow. Fingers crossed on that one. But they need a different mic, or they need to patch into the mic system in the court, because it's terrible, absolutely terrible. Let's see. Megan with 8 letters says, Ari, my son wants to start a video gaming YouTube channel. Can you give me some pointers? I can email Feezer. Yes, I definitely can. I'll want to know, give me a little things like what game he wants to play, what console he's using or computer, what equipment you have already, and I'll a lot of times we have everything we need to get started, but I'd be happy to help you out with that. Accessory after the fact, that was the charge. Yeah. Are we still live? Just got in my car after work. We're live right now, but the trial sort of deleted itself. So we sort of missed out on some of the juiciness, which was a little hard to hear. Hopefully it's better tomorrow. All right. That being said, let's wrap up. I have a date tonight with Mrs. R.A. I'm super excited about. I also have a pie waiting for me out in the kitchen, what I have not tried yet. Dutch apple pie. Accessory after the fact. Yes, that's like when you buy a case for your iPhone, but not the same time you buy the iPhone, right? Just kidding. All right, tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love. Smile as one, make their day just a little bit better, and please stay safe till we go live again tomorrow morning. I think we've got, what is it? Is it 8:30 start? 9 o'clock? 9:30? I think it's 8:30. It's going to be an early start either way. We'll get going that way. Thank you all very much for hanging out with us. We've got 2 of the 3 sentencing this week in the books. I get my plurals mixed up there. One more is still coming. That's going to be on Thursday. Well, Melody Ferris is going to be sentenced in the burn pile trial. That she was convicted in that trial. So her sentence is still coming up. That's the third one of the wives killing husbands or significant others this week. It seems to be in the water right now. So we've got that and a couple other court cases to follow. Thank you all very much. Did I already say tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love. Smile at someone to make their day just a little bit better. And please stay safe to go live tomorrow morning. And we will see you there. What time Thursday? I don't know off the top of my head. Paula Mac. Probably going to be morning, I'm thinking. Probably morning, 10 o'clock-ish. I don't know. We'll find out for you. All right, I'm going to go. I've got to go dress up. It's a proper date. It's a proper date with friends. I think I'll wear a suit and tie and everything. It's going to be great. See you guys tomorrow. Then podcast on Thursday. Don't forget. We'll see you. Have a good one.
Because we here in Canada hate you and hope for bad things for you because we hate you.